Welcome everyone to Reality Check. It's the Thursday edition, and really it's not Reality Check, it's City Council Live today when you have our Thursday edition City Council back, Philadelphia City Council, that is back in session, as you can see in the background behind me. This is what, if you are in Philadelphia, if you are a resident of Philadelphia, this is what your Philadelphia City Council's chambers looks like if you're watching us on onWURD TV. So we are obviously, since we're still in the middle of a pandemic, we still have to conduct things virtually. That also includes the local legislature, the city council for the city of Philadelphia. They will still be conducting business virtually. We're actually waiting for them to enter virtual chambers as we speak, but city council expected to come back into session, into official session, meeting as a committee of the whole today. Typically that starts at 10 a.m. They might get started a few minutes late here, but we're watching carefully now. We'll let you know when they arrive. We're going to open up the phone lines while I introduce or talk about what the city council might talk about, what we might expect today. 215-634-8065, also toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check City Council Live. Really, City Council Live. It is the Thursday edition of Reality Check on WURD, where we engage in City Council Live. Hashtag City Council Live on Twitter, on social media. If you'd like to leave any sort of comments or feedback or questions there, I encourage you to liven up. Hashtag City Council Live. I'm Charles Ellison, by the way. How are you all doing? Host, executive producer, and creator of Reality Check, also host, executive producer of City Council Live. We expect to have a fairly busy fall for the Philadelphia City Council. That definitely is expected. They should have been maintaining busy. We saw them keeping a little bit busy during the summer, during the technically official City Council recess. I know a lot of people don't like that word, particularly when the city is dealing with so many different emergencies and crises and fires that they have to put out. But now City Council is back officially in session, expected to start at 10 a.m. So have not come through yet, but once they do, we'll definitely go to them live here on WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, also Word TV, Word app as well. I'm on twitter.com at Ellison Report. Once again, hashtag City Council Live, hashtag City Council Live for gavel to gavel coverage of the City Council scheduled meeting of the whole. They should be meeting shortly virtually, and so we'll bring that to you live once that starts. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. If you're a Philadelphia resident, or if you're part of the Philly diaspora, because many of you are part of the Philly diaspora and you listen in through our wordradio.com live stream, if you're living elsewhere in the country or the world, or through you watch us through Word TV, or you also listen to us through our Word app, but you're interested in, you want to know what's going on with Philadelphia, the types of decisions that are being made by policymakers in City Hall, whether that's the City Council or the mayor. We encourage you every Thursday to, one, listen to City Council Live, but also offer some of your perspective and feedback. What do you want Philadelphia City Council to focus on or talk about? So, that's the first big question. What would you like to see them focus on? And then two, what do you expect them to focus on? What do you expect them to talk about and deliberate on this morning in City Hall or in virtual City Hall? And do you think, I guess this is a fair enough question. Do you think the Philadelphia City Council is doing a good job? How do you think it's performing? I think that's a fair question. So, and given the circumstances, right? Given the circumstances, I think we should amend that question a little bit. Given the circumstances, because we are in the middle of a pandemic, and that's put some very strict limitations and understandably so, and needed essential limitations on the council's ability to meet, and also on the council's ability to deliberate and make policy decisions. But they have been busy. They have been doing things, and so would love to get your take. I think that's a fair question. How do you think the City Council has been performing? Philadelphia City Council has been performing throughout this pandemic year. And so have they been rising to the occasion or rising to the challenge? So I think that that's a good question to ask, and we'd love to get people's input or feedback on that. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Also, we're trying to figure out ways here on City Council Live, trying to find out ways here on City Council Live to, you might start seeing just gradual efforts by myself and Troy Wilmore, producer at the Board of Steel, City Council Live, to make the City Council experience, or at least the information that we get, a little bit more accessible. Sometimes that can be a challenge, and because there's a lot going on. So we want to try to make that information, in terms of like a lot of the bills that are being introduced or drafted, resolutions, ordinances, or recommended ordinances, suggested ordinances that the City Council is putting together. So, trying to just figure out how do we create spaces, whether it's on this radio program or through use of the wordradio.com website, and also on social media, to make that a little bit more user-friendly for you. So that's always been a constant critique of any legislature, and that critique applies to the Philadelphia city legislature or city council as well. So it's something I've been, still chewing on and still trying to figure out like a rhythm to make this a lot more accessible space and place. Because I think everyone, regardless of what city you live in, you should get to know your local legislators. You should get to know, especially your state and local legislators, you should be getting to know them and getting involved with them. The first step to that is, just learning how they operate. And that can be very difficult with the Philadelphia City Council. So we're just trying to figure that out. Also, want people to be careful out there. I know I've seen some flash flood watches and warnings. I know there's a flash flood watch all day today in Philly and all along the I-95 corridor. That's already started as of 6 a.m. There are some worries about anywhere from 1 to 4 inches of rain just in a day in Philly. So please, everyone, be very careful while you're out there. If rain does show up where you are in your hood and it comes down hard, but there is a flash flood watch in effect for the entire Philadelphia region today. That's from the National Weather Service, and so we could see anywhere from 1 to 4 inches of rain by the time we get to midnight Thursday night. So there'll be, the National Weather Service is saying there'll be multiple rounds of heavy showers that will last into the evening, and so Philly region is expected to get hit hard by that. A number of thunderstorms also expected throughout the day, and I think there's been some dry runs or a bit of drought, or periods of time where it gets really hot and there's drought, and then we'll have these heavy downpours that make up for the lost rainfall. But that's a worry. Flooding is a big issue. I've been talking about that on Reality Check, and we'll talk about that more. People really need to pay attention to that flooding and pay attention to who that disproportionately impacts. And speaking of City Council, they're going to have to start preparing for that and do some more planning around it and make the necessary investments. The city's really going to have to prepare for Philadelphia being a much more of a major flood zone, and that has some serious, obviously physical and infrastructural and public health impacts, but the economic impacts and the housing displacement from that are really bad too. Potentially, there's some big consequences with that. But let's go to the phone lines, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let me go to Gary out of Southwest, who's calling in for City Council Live. Gary, what's good?
Hey, Charles. How you doing, man?
How you doing? Good to hear you.
Hey, I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing good. I just want to know if City Council, in other words, we should be looking for them to address the issues with the crime that's going on in the city, the extreme poverty, because those issues have not been addressed. I mean, even though we have the pandemic and everything now, we've always had poor schools, and the schools were not healthy for our children to go into with the lead and asbestos and bathrooms running over and flooding. I've been out there and I've seen it personally and witnessed it, being out at those schools and the nature of my work and what I had to do. So I want to know, what are they going to do for us as a people and for the black community in particular, because we're being neglected out here. Now, I live out in Eastwick. I'm not far. Thank God I didn't get caught in the flooding that was out here in Eastwick. However, many of my family members and friends did. And nothing has been done. And the thing is, I don't understand why they allowed those homes to be built out there when they knew that was a flood zone. People should have been made aware of that, because quite frankly, anybody would have said, well, no, I'm not moving out there. And they have FEMA, EPA, or whatever. They have not.
You know, what do you think, real quick, Gary, before you go on, because I know City Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, he had created last month Eastwick Disaster Relief Task Force. Have you heard anything about that? Are you involved with it?
Well, let me tell you this. One of my friends who's out here, who's very active politically, he ran for city council before. We had a press conference at the Jeff Brown shop right out here, right? Okay, and the news media was out here, 29, 6, 3, and 10. I didn't see anything. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see anything that was broadcast on TV. Maybe I missed it. However, there was not one politician out here. Our state rep or Kenyatta. They weren't here. It was about I think it was about maybe 160 people out here across from Brown's shop, right, for this press conference, and we're being ignored. You know, when I moved out in this area many moons ago, after I bought my home, about maybe 4 or 5 years later, they sent me a notice saying I got to have flood insurance. Now, my area has never been flooded. Well, how is it that they could sell a home and not inform the buyer that this is a flood zone? Just like all those people that got flooded over there, the Darby Creek and all that back there, they've been knowing this for ages. This criminal. I rode through there. My heart went out for these people, Charles. You can see them with their garage doors open, their furniture all out on the sidewalk, TVs, anything you can name that was in their rec rooms or even up in their living rooms. Some of them had the flooding up that far. All that debris was out on the sidewalk. And nothing, in my opinion, nothing substantial has been done to address this issue. And it's a long-standing issue. People need to be compensated for what's going on and what has happened to these people. And like I said, I do thank God that we didn't get hit like that. However, my friends and family members got hit out here, and we're being neglected and ignored. So I'm wondering, people that work for us, and people need to understand this, these politicians work for us. However, they're not servicing us. The tax abatement, I'm going to move to this, that should have been gone. 10-year tax abatement, it was to promote development in the city. Everybody's flocking to come to Philly now. We don't have to do that anymore. And for us to sit back, we should not, Charles, we should not be accepting of this betrayal. And I'm talking about all these council people. I don't know how they sleep at night, Charles. I really don't. But thank you for giving me a chance to speak, Charles.
No, I appreciate you, Gary. Thanks so much for calling. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us. And, you know, also I do appreciate some of that perspective. I know flooding is not something that we talk about a whole lot on Reality Check on WURD. I know some people are like, flooding, you know, like, really? It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it's going to become more of a big deal, not just for neighborhoods like Eastwick, but everywhere in Philadelphia. And it's better to just address it now and to start thinking creatively around it and how to address it. And guess who's getting hit the hardest by flooding? Guess who is getting hit the hardest, and also who's the most unprepared for the economic impact of flooding? And I know this as someone who grew up in a row house in North Philadelphia. Basement used to get flooded all the time. And you know, people's pockets, and I remember my family's pockets would take big hits. I mean, a lot of that flooding remediation, we would have to do it DIY. You folks know what I'm talking about. And it really can hit a household, and it also potentially or absolutely displaces mostly black folks, black people in Philadelphia. And that's not just in Philly. We saw that happening or unfolding in a really big way to our neighbors across the bridge, across the way in Wilmington, Delaware. It happens, you know, in major cities, urban centers or urban cores next to large bodies of water. Look out. right? And so we got to talk about it. We have to address it. And I appreciate Gary bringing it up and speaking thoughtfully about it. Let me go to Bahia out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Bahia?
Good morning. Gary took my question. I wanted to ask about that abatement. Why are they doing that to us?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's crazy with that abatement. And I ain't no Philly flooded like that. The gutters, like, do they need to clean the gutters, the sewers?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I think, it's a good question. Now, speaking of that, though, Bahia, I mean, a lot of this, it falls on policymakers in the city, folks in city council come up with new plans for it. But as residents, folks really have to watch, like, the more people want to litter Philly streets, that stuff ends up in the gutters. If you don't want to put your trash out properly outside your house, and you want to keep doing this thing where you're not like managing the trash, guess where that ends up, and guess what that starts with, that perpetuates. Go ahead, Bahia. I'm sorry.
And I wanted to say one thing, because out Bucks County, they have major floods out here, and it's like they have what are they called when your electric go off? They have to get all that the what are they called? It's called when your electric go off and you have that machine that turn it on.
Oh, the generator.
They have generators out there because they don't have sewer lines. It'd be real bad. Like, they better be. I didn't know Philly flooded like that because, we got those gutters, so I thought we'd be okay. But, and their insurance is expensive as I don't know what.
Yeah,
They have to get separate insurance from homeowners. It don't come with homeowners.
No, you got to get your flood insurance, right? You got to get separate flood insurance. Yeah, and that's an added cost. It's bad. Yeah. It's bad. And a lot of people can't afford that.
They sure can't. They barely can afford homeowners. And like I said, with that abatement, they need to be ashamed of themselves, city council.
Right. But a lot of, I'll say this, but here, a lot of the flooding that's occurring in Philly, I mean, guess what? And I know you just said this, but people need to hear this. It's trash. A lot of this trash is causing the flood. And so a lot of that partly is on like us as like residents, as Philadelphians. We got to manage like our personal trash. And I know that that's difficult because of the other part. A lot of this falls on the streets department. And obviously there's been a crisis with respect to that. So, it's something we have to, constantly keep an eye on and talk about. But here, let me, I'm sorry, let me let you go. Thanks for calling. Let me go to Joe. Real quick on property taxes. Just like the city had announced that it's postponing property reassessments and are going to leave property values at the same price that they are until 2023, and that's because of coronavirus. So the city announcing that it will not reassess properties next year due to operational limitations because of the coronavirus pandemic. They announced that yesterday, so I don't know if people were aware of that. So most property owners in Philadelphia will keep their current assessments and property tax bills if the city's tax rate remains the same. But that's the latest announcement coming out of City Hall. Let me go to Joe out of Germantown who's calling for a reality check. Joe?
Good morning, Brother Charles, and your wonderful producer, Brother Troy, number 21. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's happening?
I'm doing fine. I'll praise be to Allah. Let me say first, Brother Charles, just give me an honor for our sister Bahara and Brother Gary, my good friend. They got good information as usual. Charles, a few minutes ago, I was listening to y'all WRD's broadcast partner, National Public Radio, which I've worked with them in the past. And I heard a sister, she's like a political I guess consultant, if you will, for lack of a better word. So I know you, Charles, you stay on top of the political thing. And I'm bringing it to your attention, Charles, because you said one time back here, you said that with Trump and them planning on using the Electoral College as the way to win, even if he loses the popular vote. And you say, Charles, the way we as black people can use the Electoral College to our advantage. And it's timely you would say that, Charles, because on the National Public Radio just now, the sister said that when you vote for president, you always have to remember that you're not just necessarily voting for the president, you're voting for a group of people to get together, electors, to elect the president. So all I'm saying to you, Brother Charles, being that you be on Reverend Sharpton still a lot and everything like that, and you know politics from inside out, Charles continuously, as we closer to his election, with the moron in the White House talking crazy with this Bob Woodward stuff and of course, some trash the soldiers and all that other. I mean, what has this man said that he hasn't said it. It's so ridiculous. I mean, the guy said it's not even funny. But my point, Charles, is that it's being close to the election, Brother Charles. I want to put you to work as you ring have enough work already. Charles, continue to get on this radio show and get your press and matters, all them stuff. Try to especially for these states with the battleground states, electoral college states, whatever. Try to put the emphasis out there because our people need to know, Charles, how black folks can definitely use the electoral college to their advantage. You know, because some of our people just don't know, Charles. And since you do know, try to put out there as much as you can so it can reach the average layperson, black, white, whatever, Puerto Rican, Asian, Indian, so they can know that the electoral college can be used to our advantage and stuff like that. So that's all I'm going to say, Charles. Put that out there. Yeah. Get that information out to the public. Okay, my brother?
I will, absolutely. We'll continue to do that. We're trying our best, too. We're going to try a little, we're going to ratchet it up because people need to hear that. Now is not the time to, we can do that after the election, having that conversation about abolishing the electoral college. I don't like the electoral college either, but as it stands, it's what is going to choose a combination of the popular vote and the electoral college, and that popular vote driving the electoral college is what chooses the president. And so, it's like I said the other day, like, don't just look at the chessboard, get all upset because it's not checkers. And, you're used to playing checkers and then suddenly you come up on a game that you don't understand. That's not license for you to get angry and frustrated and then just trash the whole chessboard because that's what the electoral college is. Learn how to play chess, and learn how to dominate that board. And black folks are very robustly clustered in states with high electoral college vote counts. So black folks really are the key, or one of the keys, the decisive keys to this election. I know some people were saying, well, what about white folks and how they vote? I ain't talking about white folks. We not white folks. So, white folks are going to do what white folks do. Let's do what we supposed to do, what we got to do. Let's worry about how we want to vote. We know what we have to do, right? Because people want to, sometimes in this conversation, they're like, well, you keep talking about what we need to do, and what about white folks, and how they vote races. Okay, we know, we already didn't establish that. But what are we doing, and how are we leveraging tools and levers like the electoral college? I appreciate Joe bringing that up, and we'll definitely bring that up more and make that an absolute gospel while we head further and deeply into this election. We're still waiting on City Council. I haven't seen them yet. I'm sure they'll be with us shortly, but we are watching City Council closely, and we will let you know. We will bring them on as soon as they're available. We'll keep those phone lines open at 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
Hey, Charles, black people need to learn politics and stop talking out their rear end, man, because they need to take time to learn it. If they did, they wouldn't be making the dumb decisions they make right now. We'd be more in power. It's like they don't understand. Right now, voting is our really only strongest weapon we got, but they want to fill it up with blanks by finding a reason not to vote, find a reason to throw a jam in the system. Listen, you talked about city council. You know I'm the wrong person for that. Because I'm telling you right now, why are we the poorest, largest city in the country? That's because of our city council. Why do we only have 2.5% black business ownership? That's because of our city council. Why do we have crime the way it is and gentrification the way it is? It's because of our city council. Why do we have 2 members of city council under indictment? That's because of our city council. I can go on and on and on and on. But, I don't want to keep it short with that. That's enough. Isn't that enough? And why, when they go back, are they actually going into city council today?
No, they have to do it virtually today. Yeah, they're virtual today. Yeah.
Are they going into city council?
No, they're doing it virtual.
Oh, okay, because I was wondering, because lately when they was doing virtual, they was on time. Only time they're not on time is when they got to go on the council meeting, because they got to bring in the holy rollers in, and they got to have their little side picture taken on the side before they can start a meeting. See, this is the kind of nonsense I'm talking about city council. People would think in Philadelphia, if they knew how many black people we had on city council. They said, "Oh man, y'all living good. Y'all probably got good employment. You got they probably not hitting y'all hard with the taxes. Y'all living arrangements must be great. Y'all living in Chocolate City." But you would think this was a Kentucky, the way things is going, because we don't get nothing. You know, we don't get none of the benefits of having all this black city council that we
You call it
get.
You call it Kentucky?
Well, you know what time it is, Charles. Charles, listen, you in the middle, you in the belly of, I'm calling it belly of the beast. You know, they lucky that we're not really hardcore as we should be. We should be, right now, we should be 5,000 people marching to City Hall right now. That's what really should be happening. But we don't do it because guess what? We got a photo op. Hey, they got me a parking sign. Hey, they say they call my name when they see me. So I got to vote for them, and I got to tell my friends to vote for them. Hey, they're giving out free hamburgers. So let's stop the nonsense, people. It's our fault that the city is the way we are because of the way we vote. And I'll leave it at that, Charles.
Yeah, yeah. No, it is. It is that is. There's a direct correlation. People, you know, a lot of people out there complain about city council, and complain about the conditions in the city, but you in Philly's case, you get what you don't vote for. You know, you get when you don't vote at all. So, and on average, you have about 11 or 12% of the population in the city of Philadelphia making decisions for the rest. And so, I mean, if most of you out there are happy with that arrangement, you know, then okay, I guess then City Hall's like, okay, well, we're happy with it, and then they'll respond and react accordingly to a variety of crises. Let me go to Cynthia out of Winfield, who's calling in for a reality check. Cynthia, Miss Cynthia.
Our favorite guy was talking about.
Miss Cynthia, can you hear us? We hear you. Can you hear us?
How are you today?
How are you doing? All right. Good, good.
Good. You know, I'm responding to your initial information about talking to the city council. What would I want to ask them? Well,
Right.
I understand. I live in the Winfield area near St. Joe's University, and my understanding is they have several COVID cases on campus, and we haven't heard anything about it. A person that's a security guard there gave us the information, and I would like Curtis Jones to address this because that's putting our neighborhood in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Because I believe the school is still open, so that's, you know, the
Yeah.
students bringing in their virus into the community. So what is he going to do about it? That's my question for him. Okay?
Okay,
I don't know
yeah.
if it, but that I think that's important.
Yeah, no, I think that is very important. I haven't paid attention to what's happening as far as like pandemic COVID-19 protocols over at St. Joe's University. I know at Temple, they immediately, once they had a spike in cases, and we predicted this would happen, like with a lot of these colleges and universities,
Reality Check
with Charles Ellison
right now on Word Radio
and WordRadio.com.
Yeah, all right, welcome back. Just a little technical glitch there. We're just all going virtual these days. Let me go to Eugene out of, okay, actually, hold on one second. I think we might have City Council, Philadelphia City Council in session. They'll be starting in a moment, I'm told. And they are starting now. We're going into Philadelphia City Council starting right now. Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark.
Made at the beginning of every remote council session. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting. And you can also be found on philphlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. Mr. Decker will please call the roll to take attendance, and members can say maybe a couple of words to make sure that your name and your visual is ignited. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. Very glad to be back and looking forward to today's business. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see everyone's faces and just to be back in session.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Excited to be back in session today.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. So happy to see all of you and be back in session. Thank you so much.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, colleagues. Glad to be back in the City Hall. I see, Council President, you are a man of the people sitting with the constituents in the chambers, which is great to see. You come off the podium, so.
Absolutely, yeah. Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I'm looking forward to this session.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President, and good morning to all of our great colleagues in the City Council.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, Council colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, viewing audience.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
President, good morning, colleagues. Great to see everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the viewing audience for their patience as we learn to live in this new normal. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning, Council Lady.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues. Happy to be here at this session. Looking forward to another great term here in Council.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Happy to be back, and good morning to the listening public.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
Good morning, President. Thank you. And a quorum of the council is present, and council will now come to order. Despite the great need, there will be no invocation today. We will, however, observe a very brief moment of silent prayer for our city, its leaders, and the citizens during the current public health crisis. Can we now please observe a moment of silence? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 25th, 2020, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 25th, 2020 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably seconded that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, June 25th, 2020 stand approved. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it, and that journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
The chair thanks the Councilwoman. And our next order of business is communications. And the clerk will please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that he may have in his possession.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on June 26 and July 1, 2020, I signed all the bills that were passed by Council on June 18, 2020, except Bill number 200298, which was recalled and passed by Council on June 25, 2020. And then on June 26, July 1, July 13, July 27, August 24, and September 9, 2020, I signed all the bills that were passed by Council on June 25, 2020, except Bill number 200363, which I am returning without my signature. And I respectfully request and submit to the consideration of your honorable body a resolution confirming the reappointment of Michael H. Reed, Esquire, as a member of the Board of Ethics to serve in the term ending November 16, 2025, and a resolution confirming the reappointment of Joanne A. Epps, Esquire, as a member of the Board of Ethics to serve in the term ending November 16, 2024, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1906 North 24th Street, located in the 5th Councilmanic District, and a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Point Breeze urban renewal area identified by house numbers and street addresses as 1308 through 1314, 1318, and 1336 through 1334 South Capitol Street, 2025 through 2029, 2031, 2033 through 2035, and 2038 Reed Street, 1400, 1402, 1410, 1413, 1415, 1419, 1421, 1426, 1428, 1430, and 1440 South Taylor Street, and 2024 Wharton Street. And a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the New Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 1824 East Huntington Street. And a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the New Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2451 through 2453 Frankfurt Avenue. And a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the New Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2514 Coral Street. And a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the New Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2103 East Haggard Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Appreciate it. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. Just by way of reminder, we are asking that all resolutions, including privilege resolutions, be placed on the final passage calendar for the next session of council, unless they are being referred to a committee in our current and remote environment. This procedure will provide an appropriate opportunity for public comment. So I want to thank you very much in advance for your cooperation. Mr. Decker, can you please read the titles of the legislation that is being offered today by the member?
Councilwoman Parker offers an ordinance amending Chapter 10-2200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Hate Crimes to provide for penalties for criminal conduct involving misuse of the 911 emergency response system motivated by hatred towards certain characteristics of other persons. and an ordinance amending Section 9, 11, and 1130 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Unlawful Credit Screening Practices in Employment by revising restrictions.
Those two bills will refer to committee.
And a resolution proclaiming the week of September 14, 2020 as Census Week in Philadelphia. Councilwoman Parker is introducing that on behalf of Council President Clark.
Councilwoman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would like to be recognized to speak on that resolution in particular.
Thank you. Councilwoman, please proceed. I know there's a little special
Right.
that you all can.
Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me a special exception to speak now on the Census Week resolution immediately after its introduction. At this time, I will ask my colleagues to please put on their census-themed mask. Please put on your census-themed mask. Council President Clark, when he noted that he wanted this resolution introduced, officially proclaiming next week, the week of September the 14th, as Census Week in Philadelphia, I was extremely pleased. In reality, we know that between now and the deadline at the end of September, and we want to be clear about this, we need every week, every day, every hour, every second to be focused on the census. I know lots of people are talking about the election and voting, but equally important is our participation in the census. For a very brief background for the public, the census is the once a decade population and housing count of all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the island areas as required by the U.S. Constitution. The results of the census actually determine the number of seats for each state in the U.S. House of Representatives and are used to draw congressional and state legislative districts and to distribute hundreds of billions of dollars in federal funds each year. Philly Counts 2020 is our city's effort to support the next U.S. Census. Philly Counts, along with the Philadelphia Regional Office of the Bureau and partners, have been working tirelessly to get all Philadelphians to fill out the census. We've got to give a shout out to all members of council who have also been working in their respective districts and all over the city to encourage participation. While some areas of Philadelphia have filled out the 2020 census at rates similar to the 2010 census, listen, some of our neighborhoods are still behind. We want to leave you with this for the benefit of the public. According to our research, there are very real implications for our city if we don't get enough Philadelphians to fill out this census. In the 2020 count, if just one person is missed, and you should quantify this and know this, our city could face a loss of $21,000 in federal funding over the next decade if an undercount occurs. The city's capacity to meet the needs of all of our residents in areas that are important to us will be seriously impacted. So join the members of City Council in making being counted a priority. Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership and Council's leadership in promoting that all of us need to be counted. PHL counts. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Lady. Folks, please be counted. It's all about the money. All right. Thank you.
All right. Councilwoman Parker introduces on her own behalf a resolution recognizing September as Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month in the city of Philadelphia and affirming the need for suicide prevention awareness and robust mental health services.
Thank you. That will be on the next session of council.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers a resolution permanently recognizing the third week in August as Solar Week in the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. That'll be on the next session of council.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Education to conduct hearings exploring the benefits of the School District of Philadelphia mandating conflict resolution training at all curriculum levels. And a resolution authorizing the Committee on the Environment to conduct hearings to investigate challenges and solutions to street litter and waste disposal systems in the wake of COVID-19 in the city of Philadelphia. And a resolution calling on the Philadelphia Postmaster to meet with Congressman Dwight Evans and the Philadelphia Congressional Delegation to discuss the alleged removal of sorting machines from Philadelphia area post offices, which would cause delays in the processing of census forms and mail-in ballots.
Mr. Decker, was that calling for a hearing or just a meeting?
It's calling on the postmaster to meet with Dwight Evans.
Oh, okay, so the two prior resolutions calling for a hearing will be on today's calendar. The last resolution will be on next week's calendar. Okay.
The resolution calling for a hearing, there are two resolutions calling for a hearing, Mr. President.
That's what I said, the two.
Councilwoman Gim offers an ordinance amending Chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Landlord and Tenant to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic, including providing for temporary eviction relief and making certain technical changes.
For the committee.
And a privileged resolution authorizing City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold hearings on the role and responsibilities of the Philadelphia landlord-tenant officer position, the policies and procedures it manages in the eviction process, particularly around writs of service and clarifying oversight, ethics, and public accountability for the landlord-tenant office.
For the committee.
And a resolution honoring the award-winning Philadelphia Public School Notebook for its enduring legacy and commitment to education justice, to independent journalism, and to considering and uplifting citizen voices through more than a quarter century of public school advocacy upon its transition to new management under Chalkbeat.
And next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution urging the United States of Representatives to pass House Resolution 7947, also known as the Supporting Foster Youth and Families Through the Pandemic Act, providing substantial and additional aid to older foster youth and kinship families and preventing mandatory aging out during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
Mr. President, one of these resolutions authorized a hearing. Does that also go on next week's calendar?
No, the authorization for a hearing should be on this week's calendar. That's my mistake. I apologize.
Councilman Heenan offers an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Talbot Street from Torresdale Avenue eastbound to the end of the roadway.
For the committee.
And an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Buckeye Street, the Delaware River, Orthodox Street Extended, and Richmond Street.
For the committee.
Councilman Jones offers a privileged resolution authorizing the City Council Committee on Public Safety and the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to hold hearings to review and examine the perpetrators of the last 100 shootings in Philadelphia, as well as exploring the source of the guns used to commit violent crimes and the role of the criminal justice system in the offender's life.
Today's calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing the 12th annual Block Captain Boot Camp, which will be held virtually for the first time ever on Saturday, October 24, 2020.
Next week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution supporting the National Minority Business Development Agency and recognizing October 5 through October 9, 2020 as Philadelphia Minority Enterprise Development Week, which provides critical information, resources, opportunities, and inspiration to the minority business community.
The next week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Dana Jenkins, principal of Roxborough High School, on the occasion of her retirement after 20 years of dedication and service to the school district of Philadelphia.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers on behalf of Council President Clark an ordinance amending Title 4 of the Philadelphia Code entitled the Building Construction and Occupancy Code and Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by adding disclosure requirements with respect to certain applications, permits, and notices.
That would be referred to committee.
Councilman Johnson offers on his own behalf an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Bartram Avenue, the Delaware Expressway, Enterprise Avenue, and Island Avenue.
Referred to committee.
Councilman Johnson also offers a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Point Breeze urban renewal area identified by house numbers and street addresses as 1308 through 1314 South Capitol Street, 1318 South Capitol Street, 1336 through 1344 South Capitol Street, 2025 through 2029 Reed Street, 2031 Reed Street, 2033 through 2035 Reed Street, 2038 Reed Street, 1400 South Taylor Street, 1402 South Taylor Street, 1410 South Taylor Street, 1413 South Taylor Street, 1415 South Taylor Street, 1419 South Taylor Street, 1421 South Taylor Street, 1426 South Taylor Street, 1428 South Taylor Street, 1430 South Taylor Street, 1440 South Taylor Street, and 2024 Wharton Street.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez offers on behalf of Council President Clark, Councilwoman Sanchez, and Councilman Dom an ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2021 from the general fund, the council to the general fund, the director of finance.
For the committee.
Councilwoman Brooks offers an ordinance amending Chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Landlord and Tenant to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic, including providing for the temporary waiver of certain fees and making certain technical changes.
For the committee.
Councilwoman Brooks also offers a privileged resolution commemorating the 55th anniversary of the signing of the Voting Rights Act.
And that will be on next week's calendar.
Councilman Dom offers a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Safety to hold a hearing examining the ongoing safety and noise issues with the use of ATV and other unauthorized vehicles on city streets and the possibility of creating a space for safely riding in Philadelphia. That calls for a hearing, Mr. President.
Today's calendar. That's it. Thank you.
I have four others, and a privileged resolution recognizing the American Jewish Committee and the National Urban League's Black Jewish Unity Week and the ongoing efforts to partner and work together in creating a more equitable future.
Next week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution honoring the life of Eleanor Sokolov and her legacy of service and promotion of musical education in Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution honoring Richard M. Englert upon his retirement as Temple University's president and his contributions to Temple and Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold a hearing that examined recent research released by Pew Charitable Trusts and Center City District on the state of our local business economy, the role of our Black-owned and minority-owned businesses play in the city's economy, and the impact of COVID-19 on these businesses.
Today's calendar.
Councilwoman Gauthier offers an ordinance amending Chapter 9800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Landlord and Tenant to address matters related to the landlord and tenant relationship during the novel coronavirus of 2019 pandemic, including providing for repayment agreements and making certain technical changes.
For the committee.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on Mayor James F. Kenney to declare gun violence a citywide emergency and develop an urgent, unrelenting response to the gun violence epidemic plaguing Black and brown neighborhoods in Philadelphia, and reaffirming the commitment of the City Council of Philadelphia to continue collaborating with and supporting the work of the mayor, our city agencies, the criminal justice community, and non-governmental partners to mitigate this deadly epidemic.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers a privilege resolution honoring and congratulating the Mastery Charter North Girls basketball team on their successful 2019-2020 season and overall 20-9 record in the Philadelphia Public League Girls Basketball Championship.
Next week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution honoring and congratulating activist, advocate, founder, and president emerita of the Children's Defense Fund, Marion Wright Edelman.
And that'll be on next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution calling on Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association to create equitable forms of competition for schools and students unable to compete in their sport in the normal way because of public health guidance in their communities.
Next week's calendar.
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Independent Black Media.
21 academic year and redirect the resources to providing the best digital learning environment possible.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman O'Neill offers on behalf of Council President Clark a non-privileged resolution confirming the reappointment of Michael H. Reed, Esquire, as a member of the Board of Ethics to serve in the term ending November 16, 2025.
Refer to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution confirming the reappointment of Joanne Esquire as a member of the Board of Ethics to serve in the term ending November 16, 2024.
Refer to committee.
Councilman Squilla offers an ordinance authorizing the Philadelphia Chinatown Development Corporation, also known as PCDC, to own and maintain a pedestrian plaza along the west median of the 10th Street and Vine Street intersection on the structure carrying traffic above Interstate 676. And an ordinance authorizing Keystone Property Group to construct, own, and maintain a proposed exterior building ramp at 100 South Independence Mall West.
Refer to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the new Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 1824 East Huntington Street.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the new Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2103 East Haggard Street. And a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the new Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2451 through 2453 Frankfurt Avenue.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the new Kensington Fishtown urban renewal area identified by house number and street address as 2514 Coral Street.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers on behalf of Council President Clark an ordinance renaming and designating the property commonly referred to as the 30th and Jefferson Playground, located at the corner of 30th and Jefferson Streets, as the Howard McCall Senior Playground in the city of Philadelphia. Councilwoman Bass offers on her own behalf an ordinance amending Title VI of the Philadelphia Code entitled Health Code by creating a new Chapter 6-1300 entitled Healthy Outdoor Public Spaces to promote a healthy environment that protects the public from the risks of toxic herbicides by prohibiting their use on all city-owned or used public grounds, including but not limited to parks, trails, recreation centers, and playgrounds, establishing reporting requirements and establishing a private right of action.
We'll refer to committee.
Councilman O offers an ordinance providing for the submission of the qualified electors of the city of Philadelphia of the proposal set forth in a resolution approved by council, proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, revising the powers and duties of the Art Commission, to require the commission to prepare an analysis justifying any removal or relocation of a city statue or monument whenever there is controversy or public dispute, and to oversee the public referendum process prior to any such removal or relocation.
For the committee.
And a privilege resolution recognizing September as National Recovery Month in Philadelphia and celebrating the 19th annual ProAct Recovery Walks to promote recovery and work to end the stigma surrounding drug and alcohol addiction.
Next week's calendar.
And a privilege resolution recognizing September 2020 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Philadelphia in honor of childhood cancer patients, caregivers, survivors, and those children who have succumbed to the disease.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privilege resolution appointing 15 individuals to the Philadelphia Fashion and Garment Industry Task Force.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privilege resolution proposing an amendment to the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter by revising the powers and duties of the Art Commission to require the Commission to prepare an analysis justifying any removal or relocation of a city statue or monument and to oversee a public referendum process prior to any such removal or relocation.
For the committee.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered by the members today, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. There are no reports from committee today. So our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. There being no bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up resolutions and bills on the second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 200399, 200349, 200350, 200188, 200345, 200354, 200365, 200303, 200364, and 200368. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you, Council Lady. Before considering these resolutions and bills, we will consider public comment, and it will go as follows. The public comment must concern matters on the second reading and final passage calendar with possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 5 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation and to add to your list. I must say for the record, that is important. I've noticed that a number of individuals have not indicated their position on that bill. When we have an overabundance of bills and we have to pare back the number of people that testify, we try to have a balanced approach, but if you don't indicate what position you're taking, it makes it difficult to do that. So for the public that wishes to testify, please indicate what your position will be on that particular bill so we can make sure that we have a balanced approach in terms of being able to testify in support or in opposition to a particular bill. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Under ideal circumstances, they will each have 2 minutes to speak, which is what we'll do today because of the abundance. In order to be fair to all those wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. Once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. As I indicated earlier, when you have repetitious comments, as we do today, we're going to limit the number to 7 per legislation that will be witnesses that will be for today. Please be aware that this public meeting is being recorded because the public meeting is public. Participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. I would now ask Mr. Decker to please read the name of the first speaker.
Mr. President, we'll need to take a very short break while we call the participants and invite them to the meeting.
And I would ask Mr. Decker to please take a short break while you invite the participants to the meeting.
A job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. Under my plan, 50% of emergency small business relief would be reserved for the smallest businesses to recover from the economic mess we're in and to rebuild the economic future our country deserves. We can't just build back to what it was before. We have to build back better. If we truly want to reward the work in this country, we have to ease the financial burdens of care that families are carrying. To start, every 3- and 4-year-old child gets access to free high-quality preschool, and low- and middle-income families won't spend more than 7% of their income on child care for children under the age of 5, advancing racial equity across the American economy, building wealth for families of color, building a future worthy of their courage and their ambition. Just imagine if we could truly unleash their full potential. I'm confident we can do this. I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
The people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour work day, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
During these unprecedented times, we're creating a lot of extra trash, and that means delays across the city with curbside collection. That's why we have some simple tips that will help you to reduce curbside waste and collection delays. Reduce food waste by using garbage disposals or composting, and limit bulk waste to 2 items per household. Set out trash properly. That means using sturdy trash bags and covering containers with lids. Make sure your trash bags are not heavier than 40 pounds. Set out trash no earlier than 7 p.m. before your collection day and 7 a.m. the day of collection. And remember, you can drop off materials at sanitation convenience centers 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Last and most importantly, thank our sanitation workers for their hard work during these challenging times. We all have a role to play to curb our waste and help our city. Learn more at philadelphiastreets.com.
With Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, we are back at it here on City Council Live. Just waiting for them. They actually are in a break at the moment, so we're just waiting at a break before they go into public testimony. Folks who will be giving sort of their thoughts, feedback on a number of issues that are before the council today. And, you know, as you heard the council president, Darrell Clark, say earlier, you know, he's directing folks to be a little bit more aware of exactly what they're speaking on, you know, aligning their comments with specific bills. Or, you know, some folks will come in during these public testimonial moments and will, you know, sort of wax poetic about any number of issues or a wide range of issues. But he makes a very good point. You know, there's specific bills, specific pieces of legislation that must be addressed, and so that public comment period is provided for people to address those specific pieces of legislation and maybe provide some critical input to council members as they're deliberating on it, as they're voting on it that day. So it seems like that's a constant problem or issue that comes up. I'm not sure if it'll be resolved anytime soon, but you heard the council president mention that. We're waiting on the council clerk, Michael Decker, to he's going over that list. At least he indicated that he was going over that list of public comment speakers. He should be coming back shortly. We're just waiting on that at the moment. So council's still on break as we wait on that public comment period. Number of issues coming up. I heard there was a bill regarding a bill that was being introduced about unlawful credit screening practices, trying to put a stop on that in Philadelphia. That's an important issue. We don't talk enough about credit and credit screening, credit checks, the power of credit screening companies that are sort of quasi-government in a way. People just don't talk about that issue a whole lot. It's a major issue, and there is like a credit crisis that's going on, particularly during pandemic, as people losing jobs, don't have money. People are scrambling, people getting, either evicted or facing eviction, looking for new places to live, can't get into those places to live because of very rigorous credit screening requirements. And so it's just one of those issues people just won't talk about for a variety of reasons, namely just, stigma and embarrassment. People shouldn't be embarrassed. And so, I was seeing somewhere the United States is the only place where you have like this rigid marriage to credit screening. You just don't see that in other places in other countries. Also, we watched City Council wear masks to hype up and to generate more interest in and awareness around the census, around the 2020 census. We've talked about that quite a bit on Reality Check. I'm very glad that the council is trying to promote that and promote awareness around that. We heard City Councilwoman Sherelle Parker, she was raising that, and also City Council Majority Leader, asking or indicating that council members, requesting council members wear their census mask to strike or to create awareness around that. So Census Week in Philadelphia would be next week, September 14th. The deadline for participating in or taking the census, the 2020 census, is the end of this month. Okay, so while we're on the census, yes, Councilwoman Parker is absolutely correct, and I'm glad that she took a few moments to provide some comments on that and provide some remarks and urge people to take the census. It is about as important as voting. It is one of the key things that you have to do, that we all have to do every 10 years. There are a lot of people, particularly in those hard to reach places or hard to reach, what are classified as hard to reach neighborhoods in Philadelphia, where people have not been reached by census takers, census workers who are going around and trying to capture people who have not yet taken the census online, have not yet submitted their paper census applications. And so, so they've been classified as hard to reach, and a lot of that is deliberate. So, folks out there who are not taking their census for whatever reason, and you're refusing to take the census because you're thinking, well, they're just trying to collect more information on me. This information isn't private. It is. The government cannot do anything with that information. So that's one, that census information. It's just purely it's against the law for them to use census information or collected census, and people are very strict and very stringent about this. They are not allowed to use that census information beyond the walls of the Census Bureau, essentially. So it's just, it is essential that the country, that governments get a full count of residents in the country and in places like Philadelphia. And Councilwoman Parker is absolutely correct. For every one person who is not counted in the census, that is $21,000 that Philadelphia does not get, $21,000 in federal funding that Philadelphia does not get for that whole 10-year period until the next census. And the next census will be up in 2030. So imagine if you have, like, say 100,000 people in Philly who are hard to reach. I mean, that's just a lot of money. You know, each of those people then, you know, being $21,000 each, right? So that's, I mean, that's like, I think that's what $2.1 billion that Philly misses out on, because 100,000 people in Philadelphia decided that they weren't going to take the census, that they weren't going to participate in the census. It is so easy to do. The census is so easy to do. Let me repeat this. The census, the 2020 census especially, is so easy to do. It's even easy when you're approached by, and they have to wear a badge. You'll notice this very prominent badge that they have to wear, indicating that they are a census taker, they are a census worker. It is just amazingly easy and comfortable to do. You can do it online. You can go to census.gov for more information on that, and you could do it online. It should take you no more than like 10, 15 minutes. It's like 11 questions. And I just can't stress. I think we haven't stressed enough. Sometimes I feel like I'm stressing it, and I'm feeling like I need to be a bit hard on myself because, you know, we've talked so much about the election and, you know, and obviously the controversies and the stakes being high around that. We haven't talked about as much as we need to, as I'd like to. This is a self-critique about how important the census is, how important it is to us as individuals, how important the census is to us as households, as families, how important the census is to our children and to the future of our children. You know, it's not just in terms of the money, but, you know, also the census provides the data for governments, for state and local policymakers and federal policymakers to determine where resources go. And so, you know, if you're not taking the census, you have no right to complain about lack of resources or lack of money or lack of things being built, lack of key institutions and key infrastructure being built in your neighborhood and your city. And you didn't, like, if you're complaining about, like, why haven't they modernized the school that's in my neighborhood yet, or why haven't they built a new school, you know, so as to alleviate overcrowding. Go through it. All right. Excuse me for that. So we're still waiting on Philadelphia City Council to come back for the public comment period. City Council still virtual. And as you notice, I'm virtual as well. So we're still all kind of operating in virtual environments. So you're going to have the occasional hiccup. But we're waiting on, we've seen that with Philadelphia City. Actually, we've seen that with previous Philadelphia City Council virtual sessions as well. They've had occasional technical or technology hookup glitches And a lot of that does happen too when I notice when there's like these hard rains that are coming down, and then suddenly we'll be, whether they're thunderstorms or severe flooding, and then suddenly we'll deal with outages, and that can create problems. Every great now and then it creates an occasional hiccup with the broadcast, so appreciate everyone's patience. We're just still waiting for public comment. Might as well, should we open up phone lines, we think, Troy, while we're waiting on the public comment period? 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Just going to open up the phone lines. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. While we wait on the Philadelphia City Council to return with the public comment period, it's a pretty prolonged break as they, I guess, get a sense of, I guess, as they're setting up public comment, I guess they have to, one, determine who is offering comment, and two, get them set up on Microsoft Teams or get them set up on that line so they can be broadcast to the council and to everyone else as well that's listening publicly into the Philadelphia City Council. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900. Also, when you call in, tell me or tell us if you don't mind. I mean, it's not like a really seriously or tremendously private thing. I mean, just to say that you took the census. But if you're willing to share that with us, let us know. Did you take the census or not? If you didn't take the census, share with us why you're not taking the census. I know, there's a lot of conspiracy, I keep telling people about them conspiracy theories and the infodemic, particularly around things like a census. Folks are going to get themselves like either killed or, totally dismissed or disconnected from tangible things or tangible items and resources because they're believing in these conspiracy theories surrounding the census. So I think that it's important that people take that census. It's a very basic, very easy thing to do. Let me go to Maurice out of North Philly, who's calling in for a City Council live discussion here while we wait on City Council for their public comment period. Maurice, what's good?
Charles, yes, I'd like to, something you commented on yesterday, Charles, about the crime bill. And I'd like to ask you, what do you know about the crime bill? And how does it work?
What do I know about the crime bill? I think I talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, you spoke on it, but you didn't say how it worked, Charles.
I did. I went into a full kind of summary. I mean, it may not be to your liking, Maurice. I mean, I know you've got this axe to grind with the crime bill. I didn't say I was for it. I'm just saying that I don't think people have a full understanding of that crime bill, of that nine. People have, a lot of folks claiming they know it and they're experts on it, haven't really read it. So, I mean, there were measures, there were tough on crime measures in there, which I didn't like either. And I just don't think it's, I mean, bottom line, Maurice, it's not a reason to be throwing a life and death election, high stakes election like the one we have. I mean, even Bernie Sanders voted for the crime bill, which a lot of people didn't know and don't believe whenever, but he voted for that same crime bill. He didn't like it, but I mean, you had provisions in it which weren't the best, weren't great at all, particularly giving states funding to build more prison facilities. But, the data and the research show on this, Maurice, I mean, the 94 crime bill itself was not directly responsible for a lot of that mass incarceration. You have to look to state policymakers and primarily state policymakers and state capitals, governors and state legislatures, which particularly over that time became much more highly conservative and much more tough on crime, to that. But then you got some things out of it that were actually rather useful. Violence Against Women Act. I don't like domestic violence. And it was bad. It was really bad before that 94 crime bill. It still is bad. So I hope you feel the same way about domestic violence. And also, we had a 10-year assault weapons ban that had cut down dramatically the number of mass shootings in the country. That was in that 94 crime bill. I'm just saying that there's a lot of nuance to that crime bill that I don't think people have the full, complete picture of.
Can I finish asking your question? Because you stated for me, you stated stuff I never even stated. The problem I have with the crime bill, Charles, is help build economies in rural areas that wasn't our area, and at the same time to fund our area. The problem I have with the crime bill, Charles, that you could be a drug dealer and be executed on death row.
Yeah.
You That's the problem I have with the crime bill. That's a nonviolent.
But let me ask you this question, Maurice. Were you?
Do you want to let me?
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So that's the problem I have with the crime bill. Number two is this: the crime bill gave the states. See, that's got to be clear. It gave the states power to enforce mass incarceration. That's what the crime bill did, because it came from a federal mandated. So if you're gonna talk about the crime bill and you're gonna educate your listeners, bring people on there that know about the crime bill, that did research on the crime bill, and show how the crime bill hurt Black America. You could have bring Michelle Alexander. Colonel Weston was on CNN talking about the crime bill. He said he's going to vote for Biden. He said, I'm going to hold my nose. He said, but at the same time, I understand this man injured Black America. So the thing is, if you're going to be genuine about talking about the crime bill, bring people on there that can enlighten the community of what the crime bill did to Black America. Don't bits and bits about what it did and pick and choose. No, the crime bill damaged Black over 8 million people.
But I'm looking at there was a GAO report in '98 that came out, and they were finding that only 4 states had adopted like those really tough on crime, truth, and sentencing laws. So I'm just saying, like, the data is not like entirely conclusive that the 1994 crime bill itself directly contributed to mass incarceration. I'll say, Maurice, I think it's a fair discussion that you bring up. I think it's not only a fair, but it's an essential discussion. And I was just saying this yesterday. I was talking to Reverend Sharpton about this on his program. I was like, the Biden-Harris campaign, they need to have a frank and honest discussion. Just be out in the open. And just, talk about, okay, what was happening at that time, why half the Congressional Black Caucus voted for the '94 crime bill, why even progressives like Bernie Sanders voted for the crime bill. It was really bad at that time. People just felt, and it was a situation that had actually been aggravated and got worse as a result of the infiltration of crack and things, even uncovered by Congresswoman Maxine Waters herself about, just government involvement, CIA involvement in flooding our neighborhoods and our communities with drugs, to fund their wars in places like Central America. And that was during the Reagan years. A lot of that was precipitated directly by Reagan.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up, and that's a good point. So we know this, right? If you know they fund the Black community with this, or put it in the Black community, why blame the youth? Why blame the kids after they intentionally defund them, but turn around and throw drugs on the ground and guns on the ground, say, you take these, then at the same time incarcerate you? You understand what I'm saying? So we have to go back and look and say. I'm not, when I say this, I'm not justifying it. So just understand where I'm coming when I'm not justifying it. But I'm just saying that it was like at that time, it was a different mindset because it was just a lot of scared people, especially a lot of scared Black folks who demanded that. That's all I'm saying. And that's what's missing. And it's a lot more complex conversation. I think people are throwing around '94 crime bill like buzzword. We need a fleshed out conversation. I feel like, and I do want to do this. I feel like we need to do like an hour long or like maybe, I don't know, an all 3-hour reality check on just the '94 crime bill alone with different experts to understand. And we've had experts on here from time to time to discuss that, to flesh that out. I just don't think that it's been completely fleshed out. And you notice they're not going to talk about it. This is why you haven't seen them talking about it. But the key is this. Not only crime bill was mass incarceration, it created major income for the Royals and South in the mountains of America. They wanted to fund one community, and it brought wealth and economics to another community. When you just finish talking about the census bill, all the millions of inmates across America, especially in Pennsylvania, they come on someone else's census bill. So they get funding up in the mountains for Black people. Even though we in prison, we part of their population. So it's more than just a crime bill. It's an economic bill. It's a
let me ask you this. So Maurice, what do we do to reverse those kinds of developments, those kinds of trends? Like, what's your plan? What plan would you suggest in place of the impact or the legacy of the 1994 crime bill?
Well, one that should be part of reparations. That should go toward the reparation thing. That should be added on.
How do you suppose? Well, real quick. How do you suppose you get the reparations? How does that happen?
Reparations come in 5 different ways. It don't just come from government. It comes from other institutions too. So it can come 5 different ways.
So you're saying
thing.
so you're saying reparations without any government intervention whatsoever?
Yeah, you can get reparations without government intervention.
The level of reparations that you're talking about to eradicate the impact of the 1994 crime bill, Maurice, you gotta listen to yourself there. A lot of other people listening to you as well. That's impossible.
How's it impossible?
Because you're gonna need public. You can have reparations that's happening, from, which is kind of like a little bit silly, don't you think? I mean, we're going to put demands or pressure on a banking sector that normally discriminates against us.
Who said banking? I'm talking about people that fund them prisons. Who fund the prisons? Pennsylvania was sending people to Virginia. Pennsylvania was sending people to Michigan. Pennsylvania was sending people to Iowa. And another state they were sending people. They were shipping us there in 2000, in the 90s. They were shipping people to other states. The whole Pennsylvania prisoners. That's private industry. See, that's what I'm talking about, Charles. It's like you can't talk from someone that likes basketball, never played it, but you like it and you watched it. You have to talk to someone that's been inside it. And that's why you got to bring somebody on that's been inside it. And then they can give you a play-by-play. Because you can't be an analyst. You see a journalist, but he got a play-by-play guy next to him. Because they giving him a play-by-play how this thing works. It's private industries that went through Rendell that was feeding us into the system. It's more to the crime bill than you think it's to the crime bill. You have people in Pennsylvania that stuck on a habeas corpus because they got rid of habeas corpus in 1996. There's a woman come on Word trying to get her husband out of jail. And he's stuck on it because habeas corpus hasn't been reapplied.
I get that there's certain legacies and footprints of the crime bill. Here's my problem. My problem is people are your best chance of getting rid of the legacy of the 1994 crime bill is to elect one of the persons who was the Senate Judiciary Committee chairman at the time, is one of the authors of it, and who has already expressed an interest in reversing it or in eliminating those legacy provisions. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that from the current president. If you want to get to reparations, the closest step you can take to getting to reparations is you got to get rid of the current occupant in the White House one, and then you're going to have to flip the Senate. Full stop. It's as simple as that, Maurice. You're not going to see reparations. People are actually acting like, oh, we actually have, Maurice, I got to let you go. City Council just came back on. We're going into public comment period.
In support of bill number 200303. I'm diabetic and did not work since March, but then I had no choice. After only a few days back to work with Uber, I felt sick and I was tested positive for COVID-19. I reached out to Uber for financial help. They gave me $394. That's it. Those 2 weeks of isolation, and my baby also tested positive. My wife had to quarantine from her work, but her work paid her full pay. And even a bigger trouble, it put me behind my rent and my bills. I have worked more than 60 hours per week for Uber for almost 7 years. And $394 was not fair. It wasn't even cover the cost of my car and insurance. 3 weeks later, I'm still not feeling well, and I have dizzy spells, but I tested negative now and have no choice but go to work. We are forced to pick up customer with or without mask because if we refuse or cancel rides, they drop our rating, which could lead to termination. Then they say we are self-employed, but they treat us more like employees. And we deserve protection doing this dangerous job.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Johnny Sullivan, commenting on 200303.
Good morning.
Mr. Sullivan, can you unmute yourself? Star
Yeah.
6 to unmute.
Can you hear me?
We have you. Good morning. Please
Good morning.
state the record and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. My name is Johnny Sullivan, and I've been a CNA at Chestnut Hill for 11 years now. I'm speaking to you today because I am unfortunately an example of just how badly we need Councilmember Brooks' paid sick leave law, Bill number 200303 here in Philadelphia. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit in March, my coworkers and I were on the front lines providing direct care for COVID patients in our hospital. We were risking our own health and even the health of our families to take care of others. I didn't complain because it's my job, and I do love my job taking care of others. But in those early days, my hospital wasn't providing the best protection for me and my coworkers. We were working directly with COVID-positive patients and using the same PP over and over again. PP that was only designed to be used once. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that I became sick. Within a few weeks, I began to feel muscle aches and chills. I went for a test, and surely enough, I was diagnosed positive for COVID-19. I was sent home for quarantine, but after a few days at home, I got really worse. I began to have trouble breathing, and so I went to the hospital, and I was immediately and spent 12 days there. I was eventually sent home, but still on oxygen and bed rest. I continued to have health problems and spent almost 4 months out of work. My employer said I couldn't prove that I contracted COVID-19 at the hospital, so they refused to cover me. I used all of my sick time, all of my vacation time, and eventually had to apply for disability. It wasn't enough. I'm still behind on my bills. And here's the crazy part. I'm one of the lucky ones. I know it's hard for me right now, so I imagine others who have this same problem. I'm asking you today to hold these employees accountable to help people who need it and deserve it. Pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Angela Vogel, commenting on 200303.
Hello, my name is Angela Vogel. I'm a founding member of the Philadelphia Drivers Union, and I'm in tears as I am speaking in support of Bill 200330. You heard Shahid's story, and it's not unique. And I am here today to beg you to not make me take another call from a driver who got sick while working for these multi-billion-dollar corporations and tell them there's nothing that can be done. Uber and Lyft are currently running one of the most expensive ballot measure in history. These app companies can afford to give their workers basic protections, especially considering that we are doing one of the most dangerous and most essential jobs in the city. An enclosed vehicle is one of the most dangerous possible spaces for contracting COVID. Excuse me, I apologize. Council, I'm going to just cut my comment short. I implore you, please, to pass this bill. Don't make me tell one more driver that the fact that they can't pay their bills when they went out to work for multi-billion-dollar app companies, don't make me tell them that their city has nothing that they can do for them. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Councilmember Brooks, for introducing this bill.
Thank you for your testimony.
Elise Ford, commenting on 200303.
Good afternoon to all the members of City Council. My name is Elise Ford, and I'm speaking in support of Bill number 200303. I am the Vice President of District 1199C, an affiliate of the National Union of Hospital and Healthcare Workers, which represents 13,000 members working in a major healthcare institutions throughout Philadelphia and the region. I also have a seat on the Board of Directors of the Working Family Partnership, a coalition of allied labor and community groups abolishing barriers and driving innovative approaches to low and middle class families in Philadelphia that can lead dignified and productive lives. I come before you today to talk about a very important issue, the health, the safety, and the well-being of healthcare employees during a global pandemic. District 1199C and the Work and Family Partnership proudly support Councilwoman Brooks's bill, which will provide paid sick leave for healthcare employees who need to stay home to take care of themselves or a loved one. The State Department of Health has mandated nursing homes workers be tested regularly. If they test positive, they are required to quarantine for 10 days or sometimes longer to avoid spreading the disease. Some nursing home workers do not receive any paid sick leave days. In that case, nursing home workers are left to isolate home without any pay, sometimes for more than a week. In addition, these workers were left out of the federal Families First legislation that provided paid sick leave. Going that long without pay can be devastating to an employee, especially if they have to provide for their family at home. The PA Advocates for Improved COVID-19 Response and Long-Term Care Facilities published a publication titled Immediate Actions Pennsylvania Must Take to Address the COVID-19 Crisis in Long-Term Care Facilities. The publication states that Pennsylvania should guarantee all long-term care facility staff a minimum of 2 weeks paid sick leave and protection against penalization for that using sick leave time. Councilwoman Brooks' paid sick leave bill will be enable Pennsylvania long-term care workers to receive that much-needed protection. Councilwoman Brooks' paid sick leave bill is not only good for healthcare employees, but for the elderly as well. This includes making sure that staff is protected and do not spread COVID-19 by coming to work sick. I urge all members of City Council to vote yes on the bill and give healthcare workers the financial protections they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Will Carter, commenting on 200303. Will Carter, star 6 to unmute.
Hello, testing.
Hello, Carter.
All right. Let me go ahead because I know my time is running. Thank you for having me, Council President, members of Council. I'm here to testify on 200303. Chamber of Commerce, having heard from several members, maintains that Bill number 200303, as passed out of committee, could better consider the economic climate brought on by the coronavirus pandemic and the obstacles it creates for businesses fighting to recover at this critical time. Let me be clear. Everyone wants those who are sick to be able to stay home. Everyone, all businesses we have talked to, they understand that this is an emergency and people should be able to stay home. That is why the overwhelming majority of businesses provide paid time for this purpose. What also, however, must be understood is that by the sponsors is that COVID-19 remains a historic disruption to the world as we once knew it, with both large and small businesses experiencing unprecedented financial hardships and significantly reduced revenues. Many have had no choice but to shut down permanently. Thankfully, the city's healthcare, government, essential workers, philanthropic communities, and public-private partnerships have helped ensure our city has a chance to recover. However, as you're aware, much work remains. The Chamber of Commerce submitted amendments to this bill to members of council that look to clean up the bill and ensure that there is no duplicative processes in the legislation. The first amendment has to do with exempting businesses who have equal or greater paid time off. This was an amendment adopted in the committee, and we just wanted to ensure that if a business is doing the right thing and having more generous policies, that they are not being adding costs onto what they're already doing if they already offer equal or greater paid time off. The second amendment concerns lump sum payments and replenishment. In the bill as it stands, if an emergency is once again enacted in November, another 14 days would add on to the current 14 days that would be due when this bill is passed. And then we also want to ensure that any time off that members offer is accrued towards the 14-day period now. We've spoken to the sponsor. She said she was looking at this, and she said she would get back to us. I haven't heard back to her today, but these amendments we believe are reasonable in light of what's going on with the city of Philadelphia at this time and responsible for the city of Philadelphia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Blaine Stoddart, commenting on 200303. Blaine Stoddart, unmute yourself, please, or *6 to unmute.
Can you hear?
You have you now.
This is Blaine Stoddard. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you. Just
okay, great.
For the record, proceed with your testimony.
My name is Blaine Stoddard. I run BFW Group. We have 15 employees. We're located at the Navy Yard. We're a black-owned company. I'm calling in opposition to bill number 200-303. 30% of restaurants are out of business. 50% of black-owned businesses are out of business, and there's no end in sight, it seems, for this pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, my city council members, Mr. President, we need to really rethink this bill. I give, as a small business, I give my employees, we have 15 employees, 10 full-time, 5 part-time. I give them 23 days off. If you add 14 more days to that, that's 37 days. That's $68,000. We do not have that. We're already in debt up to like a lot of businesses, we're already in debt up to the wazoo, and we're just trying to make it day by day. And I say to City Council, we need your help as the business community to get more jobs, even with the city, to get more jobs in this city, and that's where we really need your help. I understand that there's some people that do not have proper personal protection. Some jobs don't have benefits. The driver community, the healthcare community, and the supermarkets. We are not them. Small businesses are suffering, and we need the help of City Council, not more unfunded mandates to drive up our costs and drive us out of business. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Thank you for your testimony.
The next speaker is Ahmad Mitchell, commenting on 200303. Ahmad Mitchell, *6 to unmute. And next speaker, Maria Kandroff. Maria Kandroff. Next speaker, Marquetta Phillips. Marquetta Phillips.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, we do. Please state your name
great.
and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, this is Marquetta Phillips, and I'm calling about 200364. So hello, honorable Philadelphia City Council members. Hopefully your families are well. My name is Marquetta Phillips of the West Philadelphia section of Philadelphia Neighborhood, and a volunteer with a citizen trustee with the Philadelphia Civic Trust and Citizens Campaign. The Citizens Campaign is a nonpartisan and nonprofit organization that educates and empowers citizen leaders to engage in the fullness of their political power through our no-blame problem-solving to public issues. Our solutions and legislative recommendations are doable based on data, being cost-effective, and creating a beneficial impact for the city as a whole. On behalf of the Philadelphia Civic Trust, the Citizens Campaign, we vote yes in support of the Police Reform Bill 200364 regarding public hearings on police contracts proposed by the Office of Catherine Gilmore Richardson and the Public Safety Committee. The Philadelphia Civic Trust also supports police reform policy proposals that include the following recommendations. The following police reform policy recommendations will help increase public safety transparency with civilians and police accountability. Some of my other trustees are on this call, but the one that I'm focusing most on is body cameras have to be worn by all patrol officers. And pretty much the Philadelphia Police Department is asked to allow for the citizen campaign to meet Police Commissioner Outlaw and help audit police internal affairs functions for transparency with community leaders and neighborhood residents on a regular basis. So my solution that I am, referring from the Citizens Trust is that the police department should formally adopt a written policy that allows for an annual audit of internal affairs and use of force. Use of de-escalation should be incentivized when evaluating the job performance of our police officers. Our dollars pay for salaries and benefits for police officers to serve and protect the citizens of this city. We need overall culture change with our police department in Philadelphia, with moving from a warrior culture to a guardian culture that respects and serves all citizens. Thank you for your consideration, time, and service to the city of Philadelphia. We look forward to working with you on the solution.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
We'll go back to Maria Kandroff. Maria Kandroff, *6 to unmute. Next speaker is John McKay. Mr. McKay, *6 to unmute. John McKay. Next
hello,
speaker.
Mr. McKay?
My name is can you hear me?
Mr.
Hello?
McKay?
Yes, can you hear me? I hear two people.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, please.
All right, yeah, my name's, dear Honorable City Council Member, my name is Jan McKay from North Philly Section. I am also a volunteer trustee with the Philadelphia Civic Trust and Citizens Campaign. You guys just heard our rundown, so I'm going to jump right down. I vote yes in support of the bill with 200364 regarding public hearings on federal order of police contracts proposed by the Office of City Catherine Gilmore Richardson. My testimony is that the Internal Affairs Division is overseen by a lieutenant. One of the solutions that was recommended with insight from the community is that the Philadelphia Police Department should consider hiring more civilians to assist internal affairs investigators with case management and promote the current officer in charge to the rank of captain in order to recruit lower ranks into the unit and reduce investigative backlog. This will reduce the time investigations take and identify officer or agency deficiencies in a timely manner. We need an overall culture change with our police department with moving forward from a warrior culture to a guardian culture, as my fellow volunteers stated earlier. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony.
The next speaker is Farida Mabry. Farida Mabry.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, good morning. My name is Farida Mabry, and I'm here to support police reform policies for cultural change in support of Bill 200364. Dear Honorable Philadelphia City Council members, I hope you and your families are well. Again, my name is Farida Mabry. I actually live in Delaware County. I live in Glen Olden, Pennsylvania. And I work with the Philadelphia Civic Trust. I volunteer with them. It's a nonpartisan civic association made up of about 24 Philadelphians who meet monthly to engage in no-blame problem solving on our city's major challenges. We pledge to seek solutions that are based on evidence of success, won't cause tax increases, and benefit the city as a whole. We strongly support the police reform bill regarding public hearings on FOP police contracts proposed by Councilwoman Catherine Gilmore Richardson. It will provide the transparency we need. The Philadelphia Civic Trust also supports a public safety policy that includes 3 elements designed to bring upon long-term culture change in policing. 1, tying individual officers' promotions to their use of force records. 2, implementation of the annual de-escalation of performance audits. 3, a citizens advisory council focused on de-escalation. Taken together, the policy will reduce the excessive use of force, save money in the policy budget because it reduces payouts and legal settlements and reduce police officers' injuries. An annual de-escalation performance audit should be implemented by the police department. Our recommendation is that the audit would detail implementation progress or lack thereof across all areas required to bring de-escalation about, such as training, hiring, and the use of force incidents. We need culture change with our police department in Philadelphia, with moving forward from a warrior culture to a guardian culture that respects and serves all citizens. And I thank you for your consideration, time, and service to the city of Philadelphia, and we look forward to working with you more.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jack Morley. Jack
M-O-R-L-E-Y. Yes. I'm John H. Morley, Jr., M-O-R-L-E-Y. Bill 200365 requires that anyone who tests
This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
What's not written in the bill are that very few 1510 training facilities exist nationwide. All of them are owned and controlled by union members, and they will not allow a non-union sprinkler fitter to take the training. This bill is blatantly discriminatory, unconstitutional, and fatally flawed. This bill should be withdrawn and reintroduced only after a non-union training facility exists somewhere in the Delaware Valley region. This bill will not increase public safety. The most knowledgeable inspector in the world cannot overcome design and installation error. I ask all council members to vote against this bill, please. That ends my testimony. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ben Magnus. Ben Magnus. *6 to unmute. Ben Magnus. The next speaker is Joseph Dunlap. Joseph Dunlap. Please unmute yourself if you're still connected.
you hear me?
Mr. Dunlap?
Hello?
Mr. Dunlap? Mr. Dunlap?
Yes, sir.
Joseph Dunlap?
Yes, sir. This is he.
Commenting on 200365?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, Mr. Dunlap is connected.
Thank
Please
you.
state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, sir.
My name is Joseph Dunlap. I'm a sprinkler fitter, a non-union sprinkler fitter for the last 25 years. I've earned all my certifications and backflow, inspections, and FM 200 CO2 pre-action deluge in all systems. I've been out on my own working, learning these different, sorry, sir, all of these different sprinkler systems. And all non-union sprinkler companies. I've tried several times to get into local 692, once, twice, and always turn away. I know Philadelphia's a union town, and everybody here is like, you got the carpenters, the electricians, and everybody has minorities. I don't see a lot of minority sprinkler fitters. And I've been certified for a few years now in the non-union sprinkler company. And this bill 200-365 is passed, all the non-union sprinkler companies will no longer exist. And that means me and my family and a whole lot of other families,
and Google Voice will try to connect you.
and a whole lot of other families won't eat. And I appreciate if there was a possible way that we could take a test so I can earn another certification. That's my testimony.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. The next speaker is Devin Brunson. The next speaker is Devin Brunson. Mr. Brunson, are you in the meeting? If so, *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Devin Brunson.
Hello, can you hear me?
Mr. Brunson? Mr. Brunson?
This is Devin, I'm here. Hello?
We hear you, sir. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, I'm Devin Brunson. I'm calling about Bill 200365. I'm a 43-year-old black man, and I've been working in this city for my whole life. I've roughly been at my job now for about 15 years. You let this bill pass, me as well as a lot of other people more likely going to become unemployed immediately. The effects of this bill on our economy is definitely going to be negative, all right? I think the bill is one-sided. I think it prevents people like me from getting the proper licenses and certifications required by law to perform our job. All right, if we don't join the union, then we can't work. We can't get in the union because a lot of us are turned away from the union, which is another, I think that's very unfair, but everybody is entitled to run their own business their own way. We should be afforded the opportunity at least to earn a living. All right, the only way we can get schooling is through the union, and if they don't let us into the schools, then what are we to do? So I think if nothing else, we should at least be afforded the time and opportunity to take the classes required so we can get the proper certifications that we need to remain in our current job. Because another thing that's very important is tenure. Us switching jobs and starting over is horrible. I mean, there's very few of us that are actually going to be accepted into the unions, even if they do decide to allow some of us in.
But even with that, the pay cut from starting over, I mean, it may be just as bad as receiving unemployment because you'll be fully employed, but you may not have enough money to take care of your family. Whereas if I was on unemployment, I would be able to seek out other things to help me out, you know. That's pretty much all I have for you. And I just ask, please, that you look over this and not let this bill pass. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. The next speaker is Rob Spitz. Rob Spitz. *6 to unmute yourself, sir. Rob Spitz, are you still in the meeting?
No, I want Rob Spitz to talk. He's the one that did that one email.
Is this Mr. Spitz? Hello?
No, this is horrible.
Hello, can you identify yourself for the record? We hear someone in the background. The next speaker is Michael Lauf, L-A-U-F, Michael Lauf.
Yes, Council.
Michael Lauf,
Council.
We hear you. Is this Michael Lauf?
Hear me.
Who?
Hello, can you hear me?
Sir. We see you. We hear you, sir. Can you please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, I believe my other colleagues are facing the same problem. There's a problem with the phone system, and we're getting automated messages on our end. So my name is Michael Lauf, L-A-U-F. I am an owner and operator of a fire sprinkler company that's been serving the Philadelphia area for 49 years. For 25 of those years, we were a union contractor. The bill that is proposed, 200-365, will only approve union-trained and oriented companies in order to enact and enable fire sprinkler certification within the city of Philadelphia. That will be a huge detriment to the city and its constituency. I would implore the city council to oppose this bill as it is unfair in many practices and will invite many and much litigation. In the age of being all-inclusive and looking for the betterment of our society, this bill stands in direct opposition of that. So again, I ask you and implore upon you to oppose this bill. There is certification levels, as you've heard from some of the younger men that have spoken earlier, that need this license to effectively feed their families. There's a way to do this properly, and City Council, it's in your hands to do the right thing. I implore you again to vote in opposition to this bill. There's a better way to do it. There's a national certification level with equal testing facilities that can facilitate this opportunity better than what is proposed on the table today. So again, I thank you for your time, Council, and welcome back from COVID, and good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you for your time. I yield.
Thank you for your testimony, sir. The final speaker is Jared Bolden. Mr. Bolden, are you back in the meeting? Jared Bolden? Mr. Bolden, *6 to unmute. or mute button if you have one.
Deal with that. This could only deal with people that have 500 or more. I mean, it's still a lot, but it's not dealing with small businesses.
Jared Bolden. Mr. President, there are no other speakers on the public comment list.
Thank you, Mr. Decker.
Hello. Ahmad, one of the speakers was bumped off. Can he be allowed to speak if he's on the line?
Sure. Decker, can you check to see if Ahmad is live?
One moment, Madam Leader.
Thank you.
Ahmad Mitchell, are you on the line? Ahmad Mitchell, are you on the line?
Is it *6?
*6 to unmute yourself. Ahmad Mitchell. Madam Leader, it was reported to me by tech that he had been dropped from the call or that he had disconnected.
This is Ahmad Mitchell. Hello.
Okay, we can hear you, Ahmad. Thank you so much. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is Ahmad Mitchell. Good morning, Council President Clark and honorable members of City Council. I'm a member of One Pennsylvania and the line cook at Spice Finch Restaurant. I'm here today in support of Bill 200303, a bill that will provide 80 hours of immediately available paid leave, continued medical coverage, and job protection, allowing workers to return to their jobs. Because the benefits from the federal government have ended for people furloughed from their jobs, the people of Philadelphia need your help to safely recover from COVID-19. By expanding paid sick leave, you would be supporting public health, financial stability for working people, and supporting the growth of businesses that experience a high worker turnover rate. This will make a big difference to me and my coworkers. We went back to work last week when our restaurant reopened. But not only take my word. According to the Center for Law and Social Policy, cities that pass laws requiring employees to provide paid sick leave saw decreased flu infection rates, increased workplace productivity, and businesses reported no loss in profits or increased business costs due to paid sick leave loss. Working sick also heightens the risk of transmission of diseases like COVID-19, especially for direct care workers, domestic workers, and hospitality industry workers like myself. Because many people cannot afford to lose their jobs, they will work while sick, potentially worsening the current health emergency. COVID-19 has already cost both the people and the government too much. In supporting this bill, you will be supporting the health and recovery of the city and the country. We call on you to support this bill without the amendments from the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, for your testimony. Mr. Decker, does that conclude those scheduled to give remarks or comments?
Yes, Madam Leader, that concludes the public comment list.
Okay, thank you. As stated, that concludes today's public comment period. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the second reading and final passage calendar. The clerk will please read the title of resolution number 200399.
A resolution initiating action to continue the Mayfair Business Improvement District beyond its termination date in an area that generally includes both sides of Frankfurt Avenue from the north side of Harbison Avenue to the south side of Sheffield Street and certain blocks of streets that intersect that portion of Frankfurt Avenue, and for which Mayfair Business Improvement District Incorporated, a Pennsylvania nonprofit corporation, serves as the Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association for the district.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you. Move for the motion on the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the resolution be adopted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the resolution is adopted. The clerk will please read the title of Bill number 200349.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to amend certain provisions of Chapter 14-500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating the AME, American Street Overlay District.
The chair recognizes Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez for an amendment to Bill number 200349.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was originally my intention to amend the bill. However, I would like to send the bill back to committee. I have therefore moved that Bill number 200349 be remanded back from the calendar and recommitted to the Rules Committee.
Second.
Thank you. That bill will be recommitted to committee. We need to do a motion, Mr. Decker?
Yes, Madam Chair, a voice vote. All
A
those
voice vote? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to recommit the bill to committee will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and Bill number 200349 will be referred back to committee. Will the clerk please read the title of Bill number 200350?
An ordinance amending the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Norris Street, American Street, Burke Street, and 3rd Street, and amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to amend certain provisions of Chapter 14-500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating the BNA, Berks, and American Overlay District.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill number 200350 be withdrawn.
Is there a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that Bill number 200350 be withdrawn. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Bill number 200350 has been withdrawn. Will the clerk please read the title?
I'm back.
Okay, I can't see you. I'm looking at another screen. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Appreciate you. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 200188.
An ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to acquire fee simple title or a lesser real estate interest to all or a portion of a parcel of parcels of land located in the vicinity of Keller Road between Red Lion Road and Chalfont Drive, commonly known as the Liberty Bell Youth Organization Recreation Center.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnston.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Mr. Decker, what bill are we voting on? My apologies.
Bill number 200188, Councilwoman.
Aye. Thank you.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 200345.
An ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to acquire fee simple title or a lesser interest in real estate by purchase, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise, in parcels of land along the Delaware River and in the bed of the former Kensington and Tacony Railroad.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 200354.
An ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into an amendment to a joint use agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, pursuant to which certain parcels of real estate constituting the I-95 right-of-way located beneath the elevated highway between Benjamin Franklin Bridge and the Walt Whitman Bridge are leased to the City of Philadelphia by the Commonwealth, subleased by the Interstate Land Management Corporation.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 200365.
An ordinance amending Chapter 9, 2500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fire Suppression System Workers to provide for additional licensing requirements for fire suppression system workers.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I'd like to make a comment before the vote.
Certainly. I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has been brought to my attention. I've spoken directly with the president of the Steamfitters Union, and I did want to address some of the concerns around there being opportunities for this training to be received by those who are not members of the sprinkler fitters. So obviously that is of great concern to all of us. We want to make sure that the training is available and open to the general public who want to receive this training and certification. And I have been assured that that was actually the case. So what I'd like to do today is cast my vote as a yes,
and monitor the situation. And if we find that there is a problem, then we can always come back and revisit this matter in the near future. So today I am going to be a yes on this, and I know that there's a lot of concern, a lot of worry, but I do have the word of the president of the union that this is going to be open to all individuals who are interested in receiving this training. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilwoman. Anyone else? Thank you. Mr. Decker, call the roll. Mr. Decker? You having problems?
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
I also want to make a comment before I vote, and I want to thank Councilwoman Bass for that clarification. I spent 12 years chairing the Committee on License and Inspections and working with many union officials on public safety issues and improvement in their profession. I have a problem philosophically with voting for anything that only gets certified through a union hall when we've had such robust conversations around access for Black and brown folks into these unions. And I will also monitor the situation, but I'm going to vote no, because I don't think that the timing, because of the delay in the implementation, requires us to move forward until we can guarantee that to the folks who testified, and in the spirit of what we've tried to do around inclusion. So my vote is no.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. The ayes are 16, the nays are 1. Majority of all members present have it voted in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 200303.
An ordinance amending Chapter 94100 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Promoting Healthy Families and Workplaces to establish leave time for public health emergencies, modifying existing provisions concerning the paid sick leave, and making technical changes.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the countless workers, unions, businesses, community organizations that helped me and my office craft this public health emergency bill and have made sure that it would reach workers who need it the most. This was truly a collaborative process that was guided by extensive conversation with stakeholders to ensure that small businesses who are struggling are not negatively impacted by this bill. For this reason, we added language that clarifies that small businesses will not be impacted by this bill. Most of these businesses have already had paid leave regulations mandated by the federal legislation. My bill targets businesses of more than 500 employees who are exempt from the federal legislation, as well as other workers that fall outside of the FFCRA and CARES Act, including nannies, healthcare workers, seasonal workers, nursing home aides, and gig economy workers. This bill underwent multiple rounds of amendments to address the concerns of the business community. One of these amendments clarified that businesses already providing comparable paid sick time off do not have to provide any additional 2 weeks worth of leave. The workers that this bill covers have gone 7 months without adequate paid sick leave. These workers are more likely to be people of color, more likely to be low-wage workers, and more likely to be women. We know that while everyone can get sick, not everyone can afford to stay.
We lost Kendra.
Yeah. Hold on. That's, are we back?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Councilwoman, yeah, go. I'm sorry.
Okay.
We lost a lot of what you were saying.
All right, I'll go up. Furthermore, as restaurants, college campuses, movie theaters, child care facilities, and other public venues reopen, protecting these workers is critical to ensuring a safe reopening and limiting the spread of COVID-19 in Philadelphia. I also want to emphasize the importance of enforcement, because as we know, the bill's value is its real life impact. It is to our constituents. My office has been working closely with the Labor Department and was in contact with them as early as this week to ensure that this bill should pass. Information on public health emergency leave will be easily accessible and the bill will be widely enforced. And lastly, I want to recognize the co-sponsors of the public health emergency leave bill, Council Members Gim and Heenan. Councilmember Gim's support has been invaluable, and Councilmember Heenan's office has been instrumental in pushing this legislation forward every step of the way. I urge you all to vote in favor of this bill. When we protect our frontline workers, we protect Philadelphia. There's so much more work to do in the months to come to protect Philadelphia workers, and I look forward to collaborating with all of you as we are back in council. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Council President.
Council President, I have a point of information.
Yeah, thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. Councilmember Brooks, thank you for your work in this legislation. As you know, as a member of the Public Health and Human Services Committee, I voted this bill out of committee as amended. And that was based on knowledge of what this bill would do and protect those who are not already protected by federal law and the CARES Act. And I commend you for that work. But my concern is when we made that amendment was based on understanding that the amendment to the bill 200303 will be comparable to the earned paid leave bill that was passed by Councilmember Greenlee in 2015. And so when I look at 10B of your bill, you make reference to the fact, and I'll read, nothing in this chapter shall be construed to require a hiring entity to change existing policies or provide additional paid leave if the hiring entity's existing policy provides an amount of leave that satisfies or exceeds the amount of the public health emergency leave under this chapter, and such paid leave can be used for the same purposes and under all of the same conditions as set forth for the public health emergency leave under this chapter. My question and concern is that the perspective that we voted this out of committee was under the belief that if you were a company that already provided the type of leave required under this legislation, you would not have to provide any additional leave on top of that, especially considering this time period of COVID and all the things we're doing. And so my question is that correct?
That is correct. If you already provide adequate or comparable benefits, you don't have to do anything additional.
Okay, so then the question is, and then when I read that section from 10B, I left out one word, which is the word sick, because in the early part of that language, it talks about paid leave, and then it talks about paid sick leave, and then it also says paid leave again. So I do understand the concern that many people have raised that if you have existing paid sick time and you get sick and you want to be able to use this legislation, you should not have to go into your vacation time. But my concern is for those entities, and we'll say those are newer companies, because most newer companies have paid time off, which include sick, vacation, and other type of time. that this legislation could provide the perspective that if you already provide paid time off for your employees at the level that's required under this bill or more, then you may have to provide additional time. And that's why in the legislation that was passed by Councilmember Green in 2015, and I'll read that legislation, it says, any employer with a paid leave policy who makes available an amount of paid leave, including but not limited to vacation days, sick days, short-term disability benefits, floating holidays, parental leave, personal days, or PTO, sufficient to meet or exceed the accrual requirements of this section, and that may be used for the same purposes and under the same conditions as time under this chapter, is not required to provide additional time. And so the question is, we have this two interpretations. We want to make sure that those that have paid sick leave and vacation time don't have to go into the vacation time and to address this bill. And I understand that. But my concern is for those, and I'll call them newer companies that have a lump sum amount. This legislation, because it uses the word sick, gives a perspective that if you have paid time off, that you may have to provide additional time on top of what you already provide, which is already in the bill. And so that question is what causes some concern, because when we voted this out of committee, the understanding was this legislation would be like the earned paid legislation that we passed to Councilmember Greenlee. I do understand we want to make sure that if you are an employee and you have paid sick leave and vacation time, you don't have to go on vacation time. And I understand that perspective for why that word sick is for that perspective, but it does not clarify that if you have paid time off, that you may have to provide additional time on top of the time that you already provided, which is required under this bill. So I need some clarification.
We believe that the language is clear. We want to be sure that people are not forced to take vacation time if they get sick and need to stay home. So the health department has assured us that we can clarify that a worker would not have to take their vacation time, but can use their paid sick time if regulated.
I understand that. That's what I understand that perspective. That's why I laid out the question I did. That if you work for a company and you have paid sick time and paid vacation time, and I agree with you, that you should not have to go into your paid vacation time if you use up all your sick time. And I understand that. I understand that part of the legislation. My question is, if there's a company that has paid time off, that provides it at a level that's at this bill's level or higher, or this is some ambiguity about having to provide additional time on top of that. And that's why the issue of the lack of clarity. The lack of clarity is that if you have paid sick time, we don't want you to have to go into your vacation time. I understand that. I'm talking about companies that have paid time off or PTO, where all your time is lumped together. It's not clear if they're already providing that level of time that's required under this bill, that you may have to provide additional time on top of that. And that's where the ambiguity comes up.
So, it was drafted by the law department, but I would say that if an employer has paid time off as opposed to sick time, that the employer can make the determination whether it's how they're using their time, but whether it's called paid time off or paid sick time. But a lot of the organizations that we're talking about that are affected by these bills have sick time separate from vacation time. So that's why we kept the language in that still said that it was paid sick time.
And I totally understand that. For those companies that have paid sick and paid vacation, we don't want people who come down with COVID to have to use up all their sick time and then go into their vacation time. Totally understand that. That's why I understand that part of what you're saying. My concern is those companies that have paid time off, which include vacation and sick. Are you saying that they're going to have to provide additional time on top of what's provided? Because the language of this bill says nothing in this chapter shall be construed, but you have language that says paid leave and paid sick leave. So that's where the question is. That's why some clarity would be beneficial that would say that if you have paid leave, like we did in Councilmember Greenlee's bill, that you do not have to provide additional time if you're providing the time at the level required or above of this legislation.
Just to save time, Council President, I'm sorry, this is Councilman O. I have the exact same question, the exact same issue. Maybe it's because Councilman Green and I are both lawyers, but the drafting of the language makes it unclear and confusing to me. So I have the exact same question.
Councilman, are you suggesting that you have to be a lawyer to understand this job?
No, you have to be a lawyer to be as confusing as we are.
Lawyers make things too confusing.
Well, I mean, I understand your concern, but the language was drafted by the law department, and they assured us that it was clear. I mean, and there'll be other regulations that will be put in place based on the offices of labor to clarify these specific questions, but this language was drafted by the law department, not by me.
Yeah, so because we're actually getting ready to get it cut off shortly, so I don't want to get as much in as substantive. So I had a conversation with Office of Labor and law department weighed in. They said there's language that could be interpreted in different ways. It could be interpreted that technically you might have to add additional time, and then the intent is not there. So I guess based on the interaction with the law department, who represents us all, both the administration and city council, and conversations with them by regulation, because it has to be, this particular program needs it, and I'm understanding it's going to take at least a month or maybe more, that there can be clarity in the regulations as it relates to the establishment of this particular provision that will ultimately have to be enforced by the executive branch. And the only other option is to amend it to incorporate that language, because they did say it could be viewed as an additional 14 days on top of your comparable sick time. So it's, and my concern about, in all due respect to the law department, and I respect Marcel quite a bit, they are human. I've had times when I wasn't clear and didn't necessarily agree with some of the things that they've done. So we got a couple of options, either amend it or try to get some clarity through regulation. But I'm saying all that to say that we're going to be cut off shortly. And I don't want this not to be a part of the public discussion, because this is an important.
Council President, this is Councilmember Gim.
Councilwoman. I just want to finish my comment. As a former member of the law department, we're all human, but we also have different interpretations, and lawyers, when other issues come up, may need to clarify, provide additional information. So I voted to get this bill out of committee. I support the legislation. I support what Councilmember Brooks is trying to do, because there are a number of people, especially based on the people that testified in public comment, who are not covered under the federal CARES law. But as long as there's a commitment from Councilmember Brooks on the record and others that we will define what is considered and that addresses the issues and concerns that we're raising, that can be defined, so we don't have issues where someone is not able to use this legislation in the way it's supposed to be intended for their benefit because of lack of interpretation. Because I also don't want to have that situation where someone's trying to use the legislation, has an incorrect perception, and they tied up as an individual in a back and forth of legal issues, and they're not able to use the benefit that they need, especially in this time of emergency. All right.
I will bring this concern up to the law department again, but we will clarify this with the offices of labor, which we already. I can promise that I'll continue to look through that piece, but yeah, I will talk to the law department and make sure that this is cleared up in the regulations through the Office of Labor.
Council President, this is Councilmember Gim. I just wanted to very briefly state that I wanted to thank Councilmember Brooks for the hard work that she and her team put in to this bill. It is very clear that this is an area that regulation can absolutely clarify. Bills are narrowed in regulation. They're never expanded in them. They can provide clarity, and we can address some of these issues, but I do hope that we could take a vote, given the fact that there's a timeliness. The bill does not go on beyond the year, and it's important that we get this addressed. And I think that our departments, the Department of Labor, in combination with people who are impacted, can resolve this pretty clearly, because I think the intent of the bill is clear, and that there's no reason to add undue burdens, and that will be very clearly clarified in regulation, and I'm sure by the council member and in all public discussions of this bill. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we actually had.
If I can make one last comment, that's okay. I'm willing to work with Councilmember Brooks on the regulation to clear up the issues as well as with the law department.
Okay. Anybody else? Because Councilwoman Gauthier and Councilman Owen Thomas, you were teed up, but are you okay? Because they may have already cut us off. The 64 is going to leave us any minute now. And
would it be simpler and cleaner just to amend the language, and then we wouldn't have to worry about regulation? It would just be amended.
Well, the issue is it's going to be a long debate about the amendment. I mean, I don't know. Councilwoman has indicated the willingness to, she said what her intent is as it relates to the bill. Councilman Green is willing to work. It sounds like most other people. I'm just,
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, it's a spotlight on this, and Councilwoman Brooks has indicated that her interpretation is that it would not be on top of the comparable or more than comparable time for a particular company. Councilman Green has indicated, along with a couple of other members. So if it's okay, we can take a vote. And if we don't want to take a vote, we want to come back. I'm getting a text from, Office of Labor. They said they're going to clean it up. All right. Okay, guys. Is it Councilwoman Gauthier and Thomas? Is it okay if we proceed with the vote? Because I know you're teed up. I didn't want to cut anybody off.
Yes, Council President. I was hoping to, and I'm pretty sure Councilmember Gaudier agrees, we were hoping to be recognized in speeches of the majority, not doing this.
Not now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Decker.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Cindy Bass. I apologize for the delay. But just as I'm thinking, similar to my statement earlier in reference to giving this bill the opportunity to move forward, but certainly being willing to revisit it if it is not, regulated and organized in a way that's going to be helpful to everyone. I will vote on this bill today. I will vote to support this bill today, but certainly look forward to working with the sponsor and with anyone else to make sure that the language is clear. I really I have to say, I really do feel uncomfortable voting for something where the language is unclear, and we know this going into it. But because I once again, I did give deference to the sprinkler fitters earlier, I am willing to, give that same support to my colleague in the hopes that, we'll come out at the other end and that this will be something that is supported by all sides. So I just wanted to be on the record for that.
Council President, I'll make sure I'll get all of this clarified in rules.
Thank you. Challenge yourself being the vote on the side. Okay, let's call this up. Okay, let's go. Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Did you call the question, Mr. President?
Yeah. Try it again.
Did you call the question, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Councilwoman Bass?
Sure. Let's try it again, Mr. Decker.
Councilwoman Bass?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks?
Aye.
Councilman Dom?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gauthier?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim,
Aye.
Councilman Heenan,
Aye.
Councilman Johnson,
Aye.
Councilman Jones,
Aye.
Councilman O, Councilman O,
Councilman O.
Councilman-
Okay. This,
He's on mute.
Put your thumb up.
Mute.
No, he's got to speak.
We got it.
Okay.
thumbs up. So Councilman Bo is voting aye.
Your thumbs up.
Councilman O is voting aye.
Okay.
Councilman O'Neill,
No.
Councilwoman Parker,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilman Squilla,
Aye.
Councilman Thomas,
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye. Ayes are 16, the nays are 1. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, bill passes. Real quick, Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 200364.
And ordinance amending Title 17, relating to contracts and procurement by adding a new Chapter 17, 2300 entitled Public Hearing Required prior to execution of a labor agreement with city workers represented by the Fraternal Order of Police with respect to workers' terms and conditions of employment by establishing certain definitions and requiring a public hearing within 30 days prior to the city entering into or amending a labor agreement with city workers represented by the Fraternal Order of Police.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to Bill number 200364. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council, and I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Bill number 200364 has been amended, and bill number 200364 as amended will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, 200368.
An ordinance amending Title 10 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Individual Conduct and Activity by adding a new Chapter 102500 entitled Prohibited Physical Contact by Peace Officers to prevent unnecessary death or injury via asphyxiation by prohibiting certain physical contact by peace officers.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to offer an amendment to bill number 200368. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Properly second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Bill number 200368 has been amended, and bill number 200368 as amended will be placed on our final passage calendar at our next session of council. Thank you very much. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Education to conduct
Hold on.
There it is.
Try it again.
You're back.
A resolution authorizing the Committee on Education to conduct hearings exploring the benefits of the School District of Philadelphia mandating conflict resolution training at all curriculum levels, introduced by Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on the Environment to conduct hearings to investigate challenges and solutions to street litter and waste disposal systems in the wake of COVID-19 in the city of Philadelphia, introduced by Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold hearings on the role and responsibilities of Philadelphia's landlord-tenant officer position, the policies and procedures it manages in the eviction process, particularly around writs of service and clarifying oversight, ethics, and public accountability for the landlord-tenant office, introduced by Councilwoman Gim.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Then moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the City Council Committee on Public Safety and the Special Committee on Gun Violence Prevention to hold hearings to review and examine the perpetrators of the last 100 shootings in Philadelphia, as well as exploring the source of the guns used to commit violent crimes and the role of the criminal justice system in the offender's life, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
Second.
Moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution will be adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Safety to hold a hearing examining the ongoing safety and noise issues with the use of ATV and other unauthorized vehicles on city streets and the possibility of creating a space for safely riding in Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Second.
Second.
Yeah.
Nobody.
You got to move for the adoption. He's got to move.
This is Word Radio. 96.1 FM. And 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black. Talk Media.
Moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Commerce and Economic Development to hold a hearing to examine recent research released by Pew Charitable Trust and the Center City District on the state of our local business economy, the role of our Black-owned and minority-owned businesses play in the city's economy, and the impact of COVID-19 on these businesses, introduced by Councilman Dom.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President. Move for the adoption.
Second.
Moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
Mr. President, there are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, and I've just been told that Channel 64 will stay with us until about 1:15.
Absolutely. Yeah. I understand where the real action is. Regarding speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized or to comply with the Sunshine Act. The chat feature must only be used for that purpose. With that said,
Mr. President, if I may interject, I don't want to interfere with members' comments during speeches, but I do want to state for the record that on behalf of all members of City Council, Councilman Alan Dom, we give you our deepest sympathy. We pray that God will give you and your family a certain peace that passes all understanding to meet this moment. And that is on behalf of all of your colleagues and the staff here in council. And we hope that the viewing public will also share in our sentiments. Thank you, Mr. President, for your courtesy.
thank you, Councilwoman. And we know how much we care about you, my good friend and brother. So may peace be with, all your family. And
Thank you to everybody. Thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
Chair, I believe Councilwoman Gauthier was teed up for speech of majority.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be back in session with all of you and addressing the urgent matters facing our city. And among these matters, gun violence has risen to the very top over the last several months. The spike we've seen in shootings and in homicides in Philadelphia this year is nothing short of alarming. We've had 312 murders so far this year, which means we're more than on track for an average of a murder per day. This marks a 33% increase over last year. Individual shooting incidents are up over 50% from last year. In the past week, the same 16-year-old child was shot twice in two separate incidents on two separate days. And innocent people are getting caught in the crossfire. Over 100 children have been shot in the last 9 months alone. Zamar Jones, a 7-year-old boy in Councilmember Jones's district, was playing with toys on his own front porch when he was gunned down. Just days later, a 6-year-old girl in my district was shot while at a cookout with her family in front of their home. Barely a day has gone by this year when there hasn't been a shooting in West or Southwest Philly. Our neighborhoods are quite literally turning into war zones. The violence is traumatizing entire communities. And to be clear, these are primarily communities of color. For me, as a legislator, as the mother of 2 Black sons, and as a representative of a majority Black district, I must make this a priority. I don't have any other option. Everything pales in comparison when people are dying in the streets, and entire communities are afraid to leave their homes for fear of getting shot. That is no way to live. I've said it many times over the last few months, but it bears repeating. Feeling safe on your block is a human right. And while all Philadelphians have a role to play in addressing, the city government is central in the effort. The resolution I introduced today, with the support of 14 of my council colleagues, calls on Mayor Kinney to officially declare gun violence a citywide emergency and to treat the issue with the urgency and attention it deserves. The COVID-19 crisis showed us the level of coordination and rapid response that Philadelphia is capable of in an emergency. And now we need to put that same energy towards ending this outbreak of violence, which is endangering Black and brown communities across our city. This isn't just a symbolic gesture. We have laid out actionable steps that the city can and should take, and I'd like to highlight a few of them here and now. First, we are asking the mayor to provide weekly public briefings to inform the public of the city's ongoing efforts to combat this epidemic, in a manner similar to the city's daily COVID updates. We also need the city to implement violence reduction efforts like GVI with greater speed, transparency, and effectiveness. The rollout of this program has taken far too long, and it has been like pulling teeth to glean key details of how the program works. We have repeatedly been told that this is a result of COVID and that in-person methods of communication with community members isn't possible. Now, this may sound like a non sequitur, but indoor dining reopened earlier this week. If we can allow people to patronize restaurants, then we can address the gun violence crisis in person. Furthermore, there are a variety of evidence-based programs that have been proven effective in reducing gun violence in other cities around the country. We should make it a priority to implement them here in Philadelphia. And also, we need to do a better job of evaluating the outcomes of our violence reduction efforts. I think I speak for all my colleagues when I say we are committed to long-term sustainable funding for these initiatives, but only if they are effective. Finally, we'd like to see the mayor mobilize Philadelphia's dynamic economy, the private sector, academic institutions, healthcare organizations, and the nonprofit community, and tap into an incredible wealth of resources to combat this problem. We are calling on the mayor to take these steps and others outlined in the resolution because all Philadelphians deserve to feel safe in their neighborhoods. But we can't afford to wait any longer. Each day that we don't act is a day where people are killed and many more are living in fear. I thank my colleagues for their support on this resolution, and I look forward to working with the mayor's office on this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gim. Did you want to be recognized for a speech, or was
Yes,
that
please.
reference?
Yes, please, Council President. Thank you very much. I wanted to provide my colleagues with an update on our housing work over the summer and specifically what's been happening with the municipal courts and our work to stop an avalanche of evictions that threaten our city, and to also ask my colleagues for your partnership. As many of you know, Philadelphia executed 19,000 evictions in 2019, and that was pre-pandemic. That is 1,500 a month, 300 to 400 a week, every single week, 52 weeks out of the year. That is not just people. Those are households, families, children, veterans, seniors. Data from the Philadelphia Eviction Prevention Project, which was created through this council's commitment to addressing the eviction crisis, showed that 74% of evicted people were Black residents, 70% were women, half were parents or caregivers. They are why this council body took bold action last spring to pass an emergency Housing Protections Act that included an eviction diversion program modeled off of Philadelphia's highly successful mortgage foreclosure diversion program. Now, since we've done this work, the state has stepped in with $150 million in rent subsidies statewide and a new rent relief program modeled after PHL Emergency Rent Assist. We have not left landlords behind. The state program may be far from perfect, but it does offer to pay landlords $750 per month per apartment as long as they forgive the rest of the rent. We're working on expanding those subsidies and making sure that they can better meet our needs. Now, over the summer, we've worked diligently to strengthen our collaboration with the municipal courts, recognizing that they must be our partners in managing crises and creating meaningful alternatives. We've held countless meetings with the courts and multiple city agencies this summer. This became especially important as we approached the reopening of courts in July. As a result of one of our city courts meetings, the municipal courts delayed the reopening until September 3rd. As the September 3rd deadline approached, we stepped up our work to make sure that our eviction diversion program, which mandates a housing counselor meeting with landlords and tenants, was ready to go. All of us know how time-consuming it is to get a program up and running in routine times. In COVID, with remote planning and without even a defined budget, our city agencies worked around the clock. And I want to give a special thanks to Melissa Long, Greg Heller, as well as our partners, Philadelphia Legal Assistance, CLS, and many others who made that possible. But this work has not been easy. The court's reopening on September 3rd was a challenge. It is still being negotiated with the city and required the mayor's intervention as well as multiple appeals from our city and city council offices. Philadelphia law mandates that no evictions should be filed or may proceed unless mandatory payment plans and diversion are offered. Nevertheless, since July, the courts have accepted as many as 400 to 500 filings by landlords who are very likely violating the city laws. In the first 3 days of the court's opening, over 180 eviction filings have proceeded, despite the fact that our diversion program launched on September 1st. Would you like to know how many landlords look to schedule a diversion hearing? 20. To add to all of this, on September 1st, the CDC issued a nationwide eviction ban until December 31st, stating unequivocally that evictions due to poverty and hardship are a direct threat to public health. Many of you received a letter from the statewide Pennsylvania Apartment Association affirming their acknowledgement of this. But this is still an area of confusion and disagreement with the courts and many others. We're asking for help, for clarity and guidance. Clearly, landlords need to continue to act in good faith, but I want folks to know that in other counties, the courts have established more aggressive procedures to notify and protect tenants than they have in Philadelphia. This is why 7 of us introduced a bill today to extend the eviction moratorium to match the CDC and provide additional protections that are not currently occurring. This bill has been endorsed by the governor, who is also calling upon the state legislature to take similar action. No one entity can handle our eviction crisis by itself. I know, though, that we all agree that City Council, the City of Philadelphia, and the courts should be working in partnership to enforce and uphold the laws on the books. I've called many of you for your advice, for your feedback, and for your support, and you have all answered, and I cannot thank you enough. I'm going to keep calling because we have so much more to do. We have to decide about funding diversion so that it actually works to provide support to renters and to landlords. It is our only path. It is the city's only current program to staving off the mass homelessness in our city that is because of COVID. I'm also asking my colleagues for your assistance as we try to establish some basic norms, to be able to look a family in the eye as school launches and as a hopeful year begins, to tell them that help is on the way. Right now, housing is critical to the public health of our city. Every member on this body is committed to saying that when times got tough, we stood up for our families and the families that the state and the feds left behind. We are in this together. As council comes into this fall session, we can't wait for the cavalry, because when it comes to protecting our city, we are the cavalry. Thank you so much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman O, did you want to speak on behalf of? I'm sorry.
No, I did not. Thank you.
Sorry, I just had your name down from earlier. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I know we're getting close on time, and I know other people want to speak, so I'm going to just be very brief. I appreciate my colleagues for the leadership that they have shown as it relates to gun violence. Thank you, Councilmember Gaudier, for your recommendation. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson, for the forums and the leadership. And it's an issue that has been touching all of our heart. We are back from summer break, and we've been working on a number of things throughout the course of the summer as it relates to police reform, as it relates to support for our youth and young people, but also as it relates to gun violence. Today, I was privileged enough to introduce several resolutions, one honoring Marion Wright Edelman, who dedicated her life to service in children and who has recently stepped down, but another recognizing Match 3 North basketball team for winning the Public League championship last year. So while they are celebrating winning the championship and being honored today in City Council, they're also mourning the loss of Jasmine Lewis, who was actually one of their former players who was shot and killed over the summer, and she recently graduated from Match 3 North. So my thoughts and prayers go out to her. I appreciate the great work of the family, the mentors, and the coaches that's involved with Match 3. But again, like my colleague said, the gun violence pandemic that we're dealing with right now is a serious crisis. And I know for a fact that the people on this legislative body, the people on this particular team, are committed to solving that issue, because I've been talking to you all about it and trying to work with you on this issue throughout the course of the summer. The last thing, next week, we will be having our Disadvantaged Communities Task Force here, listening sessions. The Disadvantaged Communities Task Force is focused on listening to the issues that Philadelphians are facing as it relates to the coronavirus pandemic, and focusing on what can we do as a legislative body to pass legislation and to allocate resources to help those that are suffering most. The listening sessions next week will be Tuesday and Thursday. We will make sure to provide more information Tuesday and Thursday in the evening. We will make sure to provide more information. And I just want to thank my co-chair, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, for working with me on this process and trying to put us in a position where we're hearing from as many Philadelphians as possible. I know everybody can't testify at 10 a.m. or 12 a.m. or 12 noon, but I'm hoping that folks can join us in the evening to talk about the issues that they're facing and what we can do to help them through this tough time. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Green, did you?
Yes, I will be very brief. I just want to thank all my colleagues for all the great work they've been doing all summer in a lot of different ways. I had a speech about some other issues, but I'll delay that to another day. And we've been dealing with such heavy issues as a body, not only today, but throughout the summer, throughout this entire year. But on a slightly positive note, I want to congratulate my colleague, Councilmember Sherelle Parker, on a happy 25th birthday.
There you go. Hey, Councilman Thomas, you thought you were the youngest in here. I guess that proved that's not the case anymore.
Absolutely not, Council President. Look, that's my council person, so, happy birthday. We're going to have some cake and ice cream at our rec center today, and, we appreciate you, Councilwoman. Thank you.
Belated 25th birthday, sorry.
Hey, thank you. Happy birthday, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you so much, and to our leadership team and also the technical team for all of your support. I know it's past 1:15, so I will also hold my remarks. I wanted to just thank you for your work in the introduction of the resolution around Census Week as well. We will be having a census program this Saturday, September 12th, with council members Curtis Jones Jr., State Senator Vincent Hughes, and State Representative Morgan Cephas, and Winfield Residents Association at St. Barbara's Church, where we will go out to over 3,000 homes and put door hangers on their doors to remind them to complete their census form. And we'll also be out with State Representative G. Ronnie Green in the 190th from 1 to 4 doing the same thing. So I just wanted to thank you and our Majority Leader, Parker, for your leadership on the census efforts, and I'll hold the remainder of my remarks to another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Please be counted. I think that concludes our speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority. So with that, I recognize Councilman Jones.
I hate to do this, but I did actually put in a chat that I wanted to talk. And I will be extremely brief. We put in a resolution to hold hearings about the last 100 shooters in the city of Philadelphia. And there's a reason for that. Member Johnson has done a yo-person's job of trying to corral all of the different stakeholders in the city of Philadelphia that have a role to play in preventing gun violence. We talked about how we went up, Mr. President, to that gun show up in King of Prussia, and we just walked away like from the movie Jaws and said, we're going to need a bigger boat, because this is a bigger problem than we thought. We actually rode to Philly like perplexed as to how could this be happening. So we heard from a number of groups, the District Attorney's Office, the Defenders Association, the police department, and all of them had a role to play in the last 100 shootings. But somehow it always winds up pointing in another column. And so what is reflected in Member Gaudier's sense of urgency right now is the fact that we can't afford to let there be a mystery about it. So what we want to do is look at the last 100 shootings. And we want to do three things. We want to look at where those guns came from, whether they were things like ghost guns, imagine that, or stolen guns, or guns that were purchased through a straw pardon. We want to find and trace how did that gun get to that crime scene. And then the second part is how did that young person or person get to that crime scene as well? What were the criminal reasons? Was it poverty? Was it this? We want to look at that and do an analysis of the 100 shooters. But finally, if that wasn't their first time, it was their second time or their third time, where did the criminal justice system fail the victim that got shot? Because if someone pulls a gun the first time, pulls the trigger the second time, and kills a person the third time, we should have believed them the first time. So we want to take a look at not pointing a finger, but tightening the system and looking at where did you fail Zamir Jones from Simpson Street? And we're going to look into that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Well, Councilman, right back to you. Call you for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 17, 2020 at 10 a.m.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 17, 2020, 10 a.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Please be safe.
All right, that was the Philadelphia City Council. It is adjourned. It will be back next Thursday. We'll have next Thursday's session of City Council Live. I'm Charles Ellison, host, executive producer of City Council Live and also Reality Check. We're going to head into the source with Andrea Lawful Sanders. That's coming up next here on WURD. So I had an elongated session of Philadelphia City Council. We expected that since they are back from the summer recess. And so now we're headed back into regular programming here on WURD. Listen up next for Andrea Lawful Sanders at the source here on WURD. And I will see you next Monday, 10 a.m. God willing, everyone stay sharp, smart, and please be safe out there. All right, let's go to the source with Andrea Lawful Sanders.